No, my.
Oh,
It
Jesus,
was loud
Flat.
for me too. It was loud for me too.
I think he's fine. Talk again.
Hello?
Yeah, it's good now.
Yeah.
It
I
just,
had like mic
was
problems for like
loud
3
briefly.
months, and now they're all fixed. So like that's probably why like now it sounds loud.
Yeah, it sounds crisp. Sounds crisp as
Oh.
fuck.
Yeah.
I think I
Does
just had to
sound
bump. I had to bump my volume up, maybe. All right, let's do it then. Welcome everyone for another episode of the Group Up Podcast. We're here for the great July debate, as I'm deciding to call it. I didn't want to go with Juno debate because I feel like that gives the impression we figured it out. We know everything we want to talk about, but really it's early impressions right now. So we'll talk Juno, the new hero. We're going to talk tank buffs, giga tanks. Is that what's going on, or is that the truth? We're going to talk about pickable passives and just all the shenanigans that are going on in and around all of that in Overwatch at the moment. Let me introduce my guests who need no introduction. In the bottom right, ungreen screened at this time, at least for us, is my man Samito. Samito, what's up?
Not much, man. Just lots to cover today. I think this should be a spicy one. I need to fix my. I'm not very smart. Look at me. Thank God they missed Spilo and I being very directionally challenged. I hope that doesn't get.
Oh, I've been live this whole time, just as an FYI. So
Sick, man.
Oh, that's getting clipped. Oh well, Spilo, we tried, man. We tried to spread the
We
love.
tried,
Discord
man.
hates us.
I hope I didn't
Oh,
end up
my
kissing your
goodness.
cheeks, man. That would not be good.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll get it next time, man. But no, look, excited to talk today. I think this should be a really productive one in terms of philosophy, and I'm excited to get into that today. It should be a good one.
Yeah, it's been interesting actually because I've been on like a stream break and I've missed the pickable passes and everything. But there's a lot of interesting. It's an interesting time to be an Overwatch fan because there's not only all of this going on, but of course there's this impending blog looming that Aaron's going to discuss. Sam, of course, we'll have you on for all of that. I wanted to do this one first, viewers and listeners, because we've got a lot to discuss here, and then of course whenever that blog drops, there's going to be a hell of a lot more to discuss. So
Yeah.
we'll get into that. In the bottom left, and Flats is smirking because he knows as well. Flats, we'll get Frito on, and me and you are gonna sit back and we're gonna enjoy.
can we? Yeah, just let me know ahead of time. I'll grab some snacks. I'll literally just sit here muted and just wait.
I need my snacks too. I got some pistachios. I got a jar full of peanuts in there. I was recording my Juno video talking about how much I like Juno, and then I literally choked on a peanut in the middle of it, and my editors were literally making so much fun of me. Yeah, that's
awesome.
Hey, I'll tell you what though, I could eat peanuts all. I don't know what it is. It's just about like peanuts, pistachios, SVB. You gotta get some.
The dry fruit, man, goes hard. The dry fruit goes fucking hard. Cashews.
Shell peanuts somehow taste better. It's just magic. Just tastes better when you have to unshell.
Never had them.
No way. Like roasted, like salty peanuts, bro.
You ever been to a Texas Roadhouse?
No, I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I haven't. I used to have them at Kentucky football games in the winter when we were terrible.
Carpet in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You tell how good the Texas Roadhouse was by the amount of peanuts per square inch.
Right. It was like started to compost at the bottom. It was like growth coming up from the
more
bottom.
the more peanut shells, the better the place was.
Dude, finally a good Flats food take. I've seen those restaurant tier lists, buddy. You gotta reevaluate.
I have top tier. What do you mean?
Oh man. I mean, don't get me started with you Americans and your food, bro. Like this is a whole international war we could start here. So in the top left, I will introduce our remaining guest, Spilo, with the many Spilos behind him. How you doing, buddy?
Yes. Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Explain the back. I always ask you to explain the background. We got with Colosseo there with Spilo's glass. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I did a giveaway of like, can you find like the cringiest green screen background for this one like photo shoot I did? And somebody green screened me onto the Colosseo glass, and I was like, it was too good not to use. So
I like it. I like it that somehow you became intrinsically tied to the Colosseo glass and became part of the lore.
Like funny, but I'm like, man, I hate this glass. So it's like there's something ironic in it. I'm associated with the thing I hate the most, but I think that's how it goes with like.
That's how it goes.
Look
Good
who
luck.
you're in a call to. Look who you're in a call to.
That's true. That's true, actually.
We got Brig and Moira Orb down here.
I was about to say Moira Orb's still floating around somewhere.
This account's dedicated to this man's hatred of certain things. So we're good. Okay, well let's get into it, guys. As always, we're gonna start with just your general opening thoughts. How you've been a couple weeks since I've spoken to any of you guys. How are you finding Overwatch at the moment? What are your big picture feelings on the state of the game as it stands? We'll go with Samito first. We'll go in that same order. Sam, how are you finding Overwatch at the moment?
I'll start positive. I'll start with Juno. I think Juno is probably the healthiest support I've seen in 7 years, literally since Ana. I think obviously there's going to be some things that need to be tuned, but the mobility. I was really nervous about the missiles and the auto lock stuff as well as the mobility. But what's really interesting about the mobility is that it's limited enough that it's not quite enough to get out like of an entire rotation. Like you have to be very smart. It felt like the player had to augment the skill, and the skill did not augment the player. And I really liked that a lot. She kind of played like a Kiri to me a little bit, a mix between Kiri and Ana. People were saying that Speedring's going to replace Lucio. I think her best matchup was with Lucio, to be honest with you. It felt great zipping around the map as Juno. A lot of thought, a lot of decision making. I shudder to think what this franchise would look like right now if a hero like Juno had come out instead of Brigitte or like BAP or something like that. Like it would. I don't know what the game would look like, but this is why I've kind of defended Alec quite a bit, where people are like saying, like talking about Mwalga and how bad that mirror was and a lot of things like that, where I was like, look, like, you know, what do you want them to do? That's kind of, you know, that's not a design issue. That's like what the game has to be right now if you're solo tanking, as things have gotten tankier and tankier, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I think Juno is great. I think they should be thrilled with it. They can look how to tune her how they want. Shout out to Twitter community notes for community noting that fraud account. I was pissed on that Sunday. I was like, listen, like I know the devs aren't going to do the dirty work, so I'll do the dirty work right now. I was flaming people in that thread, and people were like, the new owner of Mindpunch is so toxic. I was like, I don't care. You're lying. I do not. Why should I care about what you think if you're going to lie? Then that account tried to be like, makes clickbait thumbnails. And I was like, yeah, keep coming. I won't stop. All right. So,
Sam going to war with a meme account on a Sunday was not on my bingo card, but I enjoyed the show. Thank you for the show.
It had to happen. It had to have. Sometimes, like, I know the devs can't do it. So there's some times where I got to get and do the dirty work. And I don't mind doing it especially when they've actually done a good job and they deserve praise when they make good characters. So I'm really happy.
Did you get called the shill the other day? I thought I caught one. It was actually hilarious. I was fucking losing it.
I was just flaming people after that. I was like, all right, here we go. I was like strapping in, like, let's go. I was laughing at that one.
I feel like shill is just a new thing everyone throws
shill
out.
meetup.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. It was really funny because the other day I tweeted something like, Overwatch players, I'm begging you, there's other games you can play, because it's like I was just like, I just find that a lot of people keep playing games when they are no longer finding joy in them. Like you can try other games. There's loads of other games. And some guy was like, is this about 5v5 6v6 or are you fucking shilling for Blizzard again? And I'm like, I'm literally telling people to play other games, and you're calling me a shill.
Do you want some more lore on that? Lore on that? Guess who it was? I hope he's in my chat right now. That was one of my viewers. I fucking cooked him after that. I was like, dude, like SVB fucking cooked your ass on Twitter, and my whole chat was making fun of him. I don't know if Hale's in here. You got cooked, brother. He was like, yeah, I was kind of wrong. And I was like, are you going to say you're sorry? He was like, yeah. Did he apologize?
I didn't see. I mute everything I tweet, so I don't know. I literally, that's literally
honestly fucking based. That's the meta.
He was making fun of him in viewer games. It was so funny. I was like, I just killed the guy that got cooked by SVB. But no, yeah, it got out of hand. But regardless, aside from Juno and that stuff, Pickable passives makes me double down on not liking role passives. I think, and we'll get to it in a little bit. I won't go into detail right now. I'm not trying to shit on people who sit there and be like, I like fun new stuff coming out. Like if it's fun for a quick play hack and kind of wacky for a couple days, sure, it's content, sure. But a lot of that stuff has made it into the game, and I think that would be really dangerous to put in the game, considering we'll get to them. I'm gonna calm down.
Yeah,
I think
rein yourself in. It's been a few weeks, Sam.
I'm very nervous about the direction of making things tankier at their floor. I'm very nervous about that, but the new hero design's good, so we'll see. I'll get to it momentarily.
No, it's a good summary, and I think it leads me nicely to say flats. You know, the discussion of tanks and stuff. I saw you were kind of dropping a few takes on Twitter. Oh, by the way, the context of what Samito was referring to, this little Twitter beef, was that there was this viral post that was. It faked basically this idea that Juno was released, and it was like what's that, like 4chan meme where it's like Juno releases.
Yeah, hero comes out,
everybody
pros
loves
complain,
her.
it gets nerfed.
Everybody loves her, but then some esports loser complains, devs instantly decide to nerf, and it's like none of this was true. Like people liked her, but that part was true, but then it was like I didn't see anyone complain. I didn't see any esports losers complain or whatever. And then I definitely never saw the devs say anything about nerfing her. So
yeah, no, it's just a lie.
Anyways, it went viral very quickly, and then I guess I saw a bunch of other people go in on that account, and then eventually it got community noted. Although I felt like the community note went away as well because I saw
it went away and then it came back. I was like,
it was up and down for me. I don't think it went away and came back. I just think it was inconsistently showing up. Like you'd like refresh it, and
Okay.
it was still there. Because I may or may not have engaged with that as well.
Oh,
but,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw,
Twitter
yeah.
moment. Twitter moment. Flats, you've been watching. What have you been thinking? How's your feelings?
Well, it's. I mean, I was going to say really quick before, just because we're still on the topic. There's actually that's actually like kind of like a growing sentiment with some like a lot of casual gamers. Like, oh, competitive players, like they've ruined gaming for the rest of us because like they look at like Fortnite. Like, did you see like Fortnite Civil War for a few days? Like with the whole cars thing, when like everyone was like the whole car meta, and you just get in cars and drive around, and like all the casual players like this is
What is this?
Okay, so Fortnite had an update like about a month or two ago where they had a new season and they introduced like cars, but like they're fighting machine cars. Like they're basically like Mad Max style like weapons. And so the meta is to get in a car and fight other people in their cars. Because if you get out of the car, you just get run over and you instantly die.
World of Tanks.
Yeah, so it became like a car meta and you're not even playing Fortnite. You're playing basically fucking, Rocket League with guns.
Yeah.
And so, like a lot of like their streamers stuff, like this is terrible, like this is ass. But like the casual players, like I get to run around in a car and it's fun. Like you sweats are ruining my game, and it was like this whole war that broke out. Like the pros are ruining our fun. Like why do we listen to these like nerds? It was kind of from the outside, it was kind of wild to watch. So it's something we've seen over the last few years. But come back around, thoughts on the game? Meh, I guess. I still think that their marketing team is like run by like an AI at this point. I don't even know what they're doing. It's like non-existent. It doesn't make sense half the time what they're doing. It's like they're not confident in what they want to do. There's not really like a big hope on the horizon. And I think even just like releasing heroes every 4 months is not going to be enough of a heartbeat to keep the game as a growing, competing AAA FPS for the future years. Like it's gonna be okay. It'll just be a slow decline as we go forward. Like it would be like the golden days are gone if we stay on this path, right? That's at least how I see it. In terms of gameplay and stuff like that, there was obviously the big tank patch, which everyone was like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible. And I agreed, it was terrible, and it's bad for the other two roles. Like I know support and DPS struggle a little bit more, but I'd be fucking lying if I didn't say that tank didn't feel a lot better. I am fundamentally, I understand where the problem is. I get it. But I also can't deny that when I played it, I had more enjoyment because I actually got to play the game. Is it swung too far? Yes. Should it be two kaijus fighting until one kaiju kills the other kaiju and then they take over the rest of the lobby? No. But like, I don't want to sound like Sam totally here, but like that's kind of what has to happen with the format of what the game is at the moment. And I've kind of accepted that. And if that's the way it is, this is the way the game should kind of play, and it's way more enjoyable that way. And I mean, I haven't looked into numbers, so this is totally just feeling. I feel like the queue times went up a bunch. My queue times were normally like 2-3 minutes, even at night. Now they got very quickly into the 10-12 minutes in comp. Quick play, even 5, 6, 7+ minutes. When it was always just like bang, 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 always getting games. That hasn't really been happening. So I'm assuming more people are playing tank now. Which means that they're having more enjoyment on it. Do I think it's a good thing? Like the game overall, like healthy state? I from a balance, something tells me no. But if people are enjoying it and people are playing it more, that's got to mean it's good in some form or fashion, right? But for me personally, am I having much fun? Not really. So I've been just playing a lot of other stuff. I've been playing. I'm going to be playing Marvel Rivals next week. I've been playing like Stardew and like random one-off games. I played all of Elden Ring. That was like 90+ hours of gameplay. I played like Horizon before that. Been having a great time just doing other stuff and kind of like disconnecting a little bit and just like trying to remind myself that like there are a lot of good things we do have here in Overwatch, but it's also my eyes that we have a lot of bad things here in Overwatch that people don't even talk about enough. I'll give you a good example. I feel like Overwatch is actually a very bare bones game for what it is as a free to play FPS. I played a little bit of Star Wars Hunters for their, like I got a sponsor stream for it. I got paid to play it, be honest. But like when you open the game, there's a bajillion things that you get hit with, like daily rewards for like logging in. you get a free battle pass, and all those are the paid battle pass, but the rewards you're getting are constant. Like, they keep coming. It's not like, oh, you're working through the battle pass very slowly. Like, you also get individual heroes. Like, if I play a character and I level up that character, I get skins for that character as well as the battle pass stuff. And it's like there's like a whole tree of like making stuff more powerful, but it's not actually like impacting the game really. It's just more of like the way you feel that you're playing with certain things. And it was like one of those things like, wow, like there's so many like cool little systems here that we don't have in Overwatch. We couldn't even ask for them because we have asked for stuff like that in the past. Streamer mode was a good example. And we were always told, well, if you ask for this, like, you're going to be taking dev time away from something else. And is that worth it? And it's like, it makes me feel like maybe we, as a free to play game, especially, just kind of don't have as much as it should. And it's just basically a revolving door of skins. And it's almost like we're like, for lack of better terms, like ethical NFTs, where everyone just signs into Overwatch to buy all the skins. And I've even seen mostly casual players that complain about Overwatch right now. They mostly complain about the skins, like Venture not getting any skins, which I agree with them. Like, Venture should have got some, but if like your entire game's content revolves around buying skins and that's it, like, I don't feel like that's a good long-term play. So I'm very mad in the moment. There's goods, but long terms I see a lot of bads, and too early. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I love you bringing that up. I'll engage with that in a second as well, but I want to take it to Spylo. But before that, I'll just quickly add that this is kind of what my point was when I made that tweet saying, like, people just, like, if you're unhappy, try other games. I kind of just wish people would just internalize that, guys. If you're like not enjoying a game, it's one thing when you're content creators, right? And it's like maybe your job is tied to it, and you kind of have to a little bit for monetary reasons. But like, if you're just someone who plays Overwatch and you're like, fuck this game. For real, man, fuck this game. Go play other shit. Like, I promise you, there's a world of really good games out there. You name some great titles there, Flats. Love Stardew. I started the second Horizon because they just released it on Steam. I finished the first one. Great game. Second one, I'm liking it so far. I'm not that deep. I need to get to the Elden Ring DLC. I've only played the base game. I haven't played the DLC, but I'm waiting on that. So many awesome games. A world of fun out there, guys. Try it, and it does give you a better perspective. I've also been hard grinding Dota. So I get your POV as well, Flats, about other live service games, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first, I wanna take it to Spylo. Spylo, saw you smirking there a couple times. You shaking your head a few times. You kind of like, there's a lot of emotion. I think you kind of want to respond to some of what Sam said, some of what Flats said. So if you want to go on that, go ahead. Or if you just want to give me your thoughts overall on the game, go ahead.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of disagreement here. I think I would be. I don't know how much time we have for that today, but I would love to. Yeah, she's getting her. She's getting her brushing. I would love to have Flat's brain picked a little bit with like the marketing and business side of things. I think that's obviously always a dangerous conversation because we're more in the dark with that than we are with like the balancing side of things, obviously, right? But obviously that's like your expertise, Flats. Like, I mean, you self-made content creator. That's part of your degree. It's part of the work that you did before. And maybe a side note, SCV, but I would love to know because I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff, right? But I would love to know like what Flats thinks that the marketing team could have been done better and like what they're missing. Maybe that how affects our general perception of the game. For me personally, I obviously was not a big fan. I was a fan of Season 11 patch, not a big fan of the mid-season patch. Although I do think that in general, like its actual impact on the game has been relatively minor compared to the perception, because I think, for me, my big complaint was not that the changes themselves and that they're going to ruin the game and make the game unplayable. We've had that kind of phrase used way too much. But that the philosophy was kind of what concerned me. Like, that seems to be, like, the way that we have to go is that, like, okay, we're just going to give tanks gigabuffed. And actually, maybe on a side note here, but I actually think that is, if that's something that we have to do in the 5v5 format, we actually have to just make the tank role in general more overpowered, like more overtuned. That's fine. But me and Sam have had this conversation many times. And if that's going to be the case, then you have to make the overtuning in the right way. And I would say a good 2/3 of those changes, if not more, were just straight horse manure. Like, legitimately, you could have held me, maybe bet money, and I would say the person that did the Season 11 change and the mid-season patch change either had a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde moment, or was just an entirely different person entirely. Like, who decides that D.Va gets another half second of Matrix? That's what D.Va necessarily needs. It's not even close. Like, it's not. It's actually the if you could tell me what's the worst change that D.Va could get, it would be that. It would be that. The worst change, right? Even stuff like the Ryan shield change. Like, yeah, Ryan needs buffs, but not shield. Like, that's not the part of the Ryan experience that feels bad. Like, we don't need more pinning backline and holding shield moments. Like, Orisa Fortify, you're gonna make it last longer. No. Undo what you did to make her slower. Like, I hate Orisa, right? But like, it just felt like so many of these changes like just totally missed the mark with like addressing pain points and giving the characters skillful counterplay, right, Sam? Like, if we're gonna have that, fine. Over 2 tanks, make them giga monoliths, but at least give them skillful counterplay. And they just didn't do that. And I think that was my big issue. Is if we have a formatting issue, if we're not going to make tanks like smaller psychological impact, and we're just going to make them these big giga buffed, then fine, give them more counterplay, address pain points, address weak points. D.Va Matrix just doesn't do anything. She has the same limitations, the same pain points as she did before. Now she's just significantly more obnoxious. And that applies to pretty much every other tank. Did it make the game feel trash? No, not really. It was a little bit worse, but it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. Made tank players happier, sure. It's a mix-up, sure. I guess for me, it was just philosophically, like really depressing to see that. Like, it was really depressing. I was like, come on, guys. I felt like so much more confident that we had like a direction, and then that was just a big stinker, you know. And then Juno, I mean, I just really echo what Sam says. Like, I think Juno is like, this is like, I get whiplash, man. Like, what is this? I don't understand the development sometimes, because I'm like, man, this Juno's great. Like, she's so much fun, you know? It's like, there's some pain points that need to be addressed, maybe, and some tweaks here and there, but like, I played Juno for like 10 hours. I had a bunch of people that just like let me queue Juno like 24/7 quick play. I stacked, we did pugs. I had so much fun. She was so freaking hard, and like, you had to adjust, and you got punished, and like, and that's not even with the whole headshot thing. And there's some things like that could like just as she is right now. I enjoyed it so much playing her. It's just like, it's the highs and it's like the Tale of Two Cities, the best of times, the worst of times. Sometimes it's like, man, that's so cool, and then, oh no, what are you guys doing? I will say, the season 11 initial patch to the season 11 mid-season patch, not in terms of how the game felt, but the philosophy, were the most diametrically opposed patches that I've ever seen in Overwatch history. We've had worse patches, we've had maybe even arguably better patches, but I've never seen, oh wow, those are all like pretty reasonable changes. Like, these are like skill ceiling, like dynamics, addressing pain points, and then what? It was sad. It was sad. What were the good changes? The Winston alt fire charge time was like, that was a good one. That was like a nice pain point for that character.
Mm-hmm.
You could say ball reloading faster.
Yeah, ball reloading faster was pretty good as well. There's like the fact that we have to think that hard, man.
Hot take, I liked the micro missile changes. I think the DM was way over the top, but I liked like the stopping power a little bit more. It was nice, but it's all too much together though.
Right. At worst, it was a neutral change, right? Like damage for D.Va is definitely at points a weak point, right? Like a pain point for her. But like, yeah. Anyway, that's my spiel.
She wins most 1v1s in the game, though. I don't know. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. Listen, I noticed the D.Va changes. I know.
Sam, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sam, if you want your new video, okay, D.Va is the perfect microcosm of the pain points of 5v5. Literally, you could not find a better character that has aged poorly in 5v5 than D.Va. The worst character.
I agree with that, actually.
By far, because her entire identity was enabling other tanks and defending space, right? Both of those things have completely died off, and so you have Matrix Matrix has no identity right now outside of self-sustain, and it does that one while not allowing her to actually do damage. And her mobility, which was more limited because the range of space that she had to control was much smaller. Now she has to control so much more space, and she can't do it. And that's not even talking about bomb, and that's not even talking about remacking.
Yeah, bomb. It was bad to bomb engage before, and it's even worse now. You just can't.
Yeah,
you lose your.
So D.Va's like the worst right now. Just like either like she's been literally over. Like, I made a tier list. I'm gonna sound like flats here. I told you so. I made a tier list a year and a half ago, and I said D.Va's one of the most overtuned, like S tier in terms of overtuned character, and people cooked me for that. And I was saying, guys, listen, she's bad in the game, but her kit is so bloated, it just doesn't fit anywhere, right? It just doesn't fit, right? And we're seeing that right now. Basically, what happens is she gets buffed to the point now to where it doesn't matter if she fits. She's just way overtuned, and it's awful. Like, it's
you
awful.
can't make a play on her. There's no play to make. You literally cannot make a play. And that is why, and this is what I want to say, I'll keep it brief, SVB, so we can kind of move on here. This was the call I made about 5v5 a year ago. I said, there is no answer, and the fun has to come at the expense of someone else, to the point where they had to buff every single tank in the game still didn't give them more gameplay options. And now, as a DPS player and a support, you literally cannot make a play on these heroes. And what I'd encourage everybody to go do, and I encourage the devs to do the same, if you guys have not tried the 6v6 code yet, they've got a public matchmaker. It takes the wool off the eyes of so much of the power creep and shooting at tanks that can die. And the big thing I notice, I hate that this might be a good segue to the passives. Not getting ult charge off tanks is so boring. Like having the big moments as DPS, or like sometimes it's like, yo, like I'm building an ult like every fight because I can sit here and shoot these people or do this. Like I miss that. And there's just so much that has been lost there. And I encourage anybody just to, I don't care what side you're on, go try it, because it'll definitely show you how different the game feels. And it really took the wall. It made me rethink a lot of things too, where I was like, okay, how did I remember this? How did I remember this? Like could they even do better in 5v5? And that's really when I was like, okay, every passive except for global healing should go. Every single one of them. I hate them, but either way. Interesting point, Spilo, on D.Va. I'll think about that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, great points from everyone all around. And, you know, you don't need to convince me twice, Sam, about hating passes. Like, you know, we were there like a year ago. Like already I was like, nah, I think this is kind of too broad-minded to work. I'll just quickly share my POV as well, as someone who's, because I think it is different to your guys' POV, because I genuinely feel like a very casual Overwatch player now. Like not casual in the sense of like necessarily being gold or plat, but casual in that like I barely played Overwatch like in the last 2 months, like season 11.
Oh, he must feel great.
I do. It's amazing. Like, you know, I took like a 2-week break for like to work on other stuff, and like I played the start of the season, took a 2-week break. Unfortunately, I missed the entire pickable passes, which I did want to try, but I came back. There was the Giga tank buffs, and I was a bit like I saw it on Twitter where people were like, "They're Giga buffing tanks. This is gonna be the fucking worst. Like this is gonna be awful." And I was prepared to be like, "Man, this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck when I go back and play Overwatch." But actually, it was. I actually didn't feel it much different. I'm not gonna lie. There was only 2 heroes that I felt. I was looking at and I was like, yeah, these guys will not fucking die. And I was like D.Va and sometimes Ram. D.Va was the one where I like stuck out like a sore thumb, where I was like, okay, this bitch does not die.
Zarya was good too.
But
Zarya
really is good when you yeah, especially when you get that matchup when someone goes D.Va, the other guy goes Zarya, and it's just like,
and you got more charge too. You
got more
like,
charge. The bubbles were it was crazy.
Right, it's just like this guy's always high energy, but still I think the Zarya has that fundamental weakness that maybe D.Va doesn't, where it's like just certain areas you can't run Zarya, or like it's easily outplayed. So I played a lot more DPS this season actually than I played tank, and it might be illustrative of where I am. Maybe it's I don't know. I don't know what it's like above me. I'm around. I actually got my DPS to Master 5, which I was like, yo, nice. But I was enjoying DPS a lot more than I enjoyed tank. Like I actually just still don't enjoy tank. I didn't really even feel. I just felt like the fundamental experience was the same. Where I was like on DPS, I feel like I always have something I can do better, right? And that's what I've been on the grind of. And maybe it's me, maybe it's my mentality. But I play a lot of like these flanky DPS, right? So I'm always like, all right, I'm in the backline anyways. I don't care about the Giga buff tanks. I'm playing Tracer, or I'm playing like a flanky Reaper, and I'm in the backline anyways. So whenever I'm playing DPS, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe that fight I could have gone for this guy. I could have pulled them a little bit sooner, distract them a little bit sooner. When I play tank, I can be like lifting the world. I'm fucking Atlas. I'm fucking Sisyphus pushing a rock up the hill, you know? And I fucking turn around and I'm just like, oh, you bitches really, you ain't gonna do shit? You're not gonna play this game? You're not gonna fucking play? You guys hiding? You're dead? Like, what's going on? And I find that on tank more than any other role. And so I don't think the Giga buffs, in my mind, changed anything. Like, in that sense, I defer to you guys on your judgment on like whether certain changes are healthy, unhealthy, but just as a player who's like hopping in, and I'm like, kind of still feels like Overwatch, just maybe some people got overtuned. Like now I'm looking at D.Va and I'm like, okay, if this guy exists in front of me, like goodbye. I should just stop playing for a while, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel like for 90% of players, Overwatch is a very fun game as long as you don't play tank. Like if you play DPS and support, you probably love the game. You probably think it's great. Like, I don't think many casual players even play that much tank. If I really had to make a guess, I feel like tank is like a hardcore role. You know, you have to play a lot of Overwatch to understand how to play that role. But you could just pop in from Valorant and start clicking some heads on some DPS, having a great time.
I think that's what it is. I think tank is the most tactically demanding role. I think this isn't a surprise, but like orders of magnitude, in my opinion, orders of magnitude more tactical. Like whatever I do on DPS, I'm just trying to like be an off tank basically. I'm just gonna pull the supports so the tank doesn't get healing, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just gonna distract them when their tank goes in. The tank doesn't get healing, he dies. He's flaming his team probably like, where are my heals? And he's like, oh, there's a tracer in our backline. You won't deal with her.
Tank diff in chat after that too.
Yeah, exactly. And then blaming tank diff. But like, you're right. It's just like orders of magnitude harder compared to what you can do. Just lock in and shoot stuff.
It's an anti-casual role. It's anti-casual now.
Yeah.
With so much pressure on one player, they've talked about this when they announced 5v5. You're gigabuffed with stats now. So if you aren't doing your part or you're getting gapped, it just creates a massive fucking steamroll, and we see them all the time. Like there was one game where I was playing tank at post buff, so this shit was so funny. And you rely on your sports so much too, where I finished like 1-9 with like 10k damage. I put it in the group up chat against a 3-stack, right? And my whole team had like no limbs. The very next game, I played the same stack with different supports, and I went 15-0. And I was just like, all right. Like, come on, it's just you have to know most of the roster. You have to counter swap constantly because they keep buffing stats. So like again, like depending if your tank, the hero you play is that kind of diva of this season where she's unkillable, it's just it's an anti-casual experience. It just is. And you know, it was supposed to do the opposite, where it was like, hey, you're supposed to be the all-star, the playmaker, you're the super tank, you can go do stuff. But what ended up happening is they made both of the tanks that going up head to head against each other freaking unstoppable force versus immovable object. So you're sitting there ramming your head into a wall constantly. But when there were two tanks that were closer to DPS, that had vulnerability and had weak points, the dance was there. And after playing the 6v6 code, I played every tank. I could play almost anything I wanted, whenever I wanted, and I felt like my decisions mattered so much more. It was better to play into, it was better to play against. And so what they need to focus on doing is trying to bring that dance back. And this is why I really didn't like, this is like why I was nuclear on the philosophy about what Spilo said too about this mid-season patch. The more you buff things, the more that feeling is going to be there. Like, can we all agree at this point that this is a fundamental issue? It's not a balance thing where everyone was just like, balance the tanks better. Like this is just a cause and effect of the format change. Now, is it better for the game? We can debate that all day, but like that will not go away with balance at this point. And I think that's something that we should all kind of accept. And I don't want to go down this hill right now, but that's just a point that I would like to point out. It's like, hey, the analogy I made too was go for it. Go for it.
I'll play devil's advocate that I agree. We've had this conversation. I will say that it is always exacerbated by the way that they balance things. It's not that like how strong is tank, how weak is tank. It's like how strong is diva with matrix versus how much playmaking can you make. What tank, like when you talk about like a game balance standpoint, you could say that certain tank designs are more limited because of the format, right? But the problem is that in 5v5, the solo tanks that have the most trouble or are the most troubling to play versus have the most fundamentally flawed, crappy design issues.
Yes, but then I would also counter that by saying the format forces a lot of those copy designs.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
We'll wait till devlog. Let's wait till devlog.
We won't go too back and forth. We won't go too back and forth. I'll give my opinion, then I want Flat's opinion. We'll just say our opinions. I don't necessarily want to debate them on this issue. I'll say I'm just a firm believer that any format is balanceable. Like I think I don't think that there was a lightning strike moment and like we found the perfect bottle that 6v6 was the one format that could work to make Overwatch fun. I think given the right hands behind the wheels, like you could make one support work, you could make one DPS work, right? Like I trust you guys in this call, right? I would be like, I'd happily hand over balancing to Spilo and be like, go Spilo, you go do your thing. You know, I love the philosophy you bring to the game. Go give me a better version of this game. And I think he'd give you a better version of this game. Now, that's not shade. I know the developers have a lot of considerations, but I do think on par, my POV is that it's just been done badly. Do I think they would do 6v6 badly? Yes, I would also think they do 6v6 badly. So I don't know if it's fundamental or not. I think it could be done better. Flats?
Can I, before I say anything, what am I actually giving my opinion on, like specifically? When we go like off the
Samito's
rails?
question, which was because I think Samito wanted us to state in the sand, like, are what we're saying just fundamental problems, like to the design of 5v5, or are they just balance problems?
I mean, I'd say they're fundamental Overwatch problems. I mean, balancing tank in any video game is legitimately very hard to do.
True.
I will say, if I took today's balance team versus Overwatch 1's balance team, I would take today's balance team over Overwatch 1's balance team. And I think that if today we went and we snapped our fingers and went back into, say, the 6v6 format, I think today's dev team would do a better job balancing it than Overwatch 1 dev team did it with theirs. So I think there's a good argument to be made that like it could end up being better. I think it's a fair argument, but do I also think that it's always a good philosophy that they come with? No. I do like that they're willing to take risks though. My original theory was that when I talked to Aaron back in like March or April, he said that they were trying to figure out their regular cadence for like shaking up the game. Was it supposed to be once a year, every twice a year, you know? My idea was like this was their half year shakeup, and basically we are going to spend the next 6 months trying to like hardcore focus on tank and see if we can like make this work. And that's why it was so radically different. I don't know if that's actually the truth though. That's just kind of like my own way I looked at it. It was like this has to have been their logic for doing that. But I think things like the pickable passives is like a great indicator that they want to try new shit. And even if I personally am not a big passives fan, I think I learned a lot from that. And I have a pretty strong opinion on the whole passives thing now because of that. But I would have never had that opinion if they hadn't swung the bat and actually tried it. And I think because they want to try a lot of that stuff, I'm willing to give them more of the benefit of the doubt and trust that if they believe that they can make something work, that they would find a way. They just need to experiment and need a little bit more time, because they're not going to just go silent and pretend like, oh, everything's fine. I think we've hit the point where they're kind of like, okay, we have to kind of admit that we have some problems and we're trying to fix them and we're trying new radical stuff. And so I appreciate that a lot. But I do think there's valid arguments for both sides. Very valid.
Okay, so for those who are hungry for more discussions on this topic, again, once Aaron has said publicly that he's releasing a blog soon. So basically, I think he already finished it, but it takes a while to localize for the various languages around the world. So at some point this week, we expect that blog to drop. And when it drops, then I'll get the gang together and we'll talk about it because, well, yeah, who knows how it goes? I don't even know what scope Aaron has gone for. Like, I don't know how wide is he going? Is it just going to be like
I heard it's big.
Simple.
I heard it's a big one.
It seems like he's been going big. So we'll see. We'll have a.
Are we talking like IO Sucks documentary of goats big?
I hope not. I think everyone would fall asleep at that point. Jesus Christ.
On that. Pass on that.
I'm not reading all that.
That was a long. No, I think it was like 30 pages. Good for him for writing it. You know.
I know shade on that. Like that was.
Yeah.
Great,
that was not a shot.
Great as educational content, but not from a developer's blog. I think ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, so we'll have a discussion on that. So I appreciate this, like, more brief touch on this. Now there's loads to talk to. There's Pickable Pass and all that. But before we actually do that, I actually want to follow up Spylo's initial query that he posed to you, Flats, which is that he was wondering what you meant about the marketing of the game. So actually, let's go there before we forget about it, and then we can discuss all the Juno and Pickable passive stuff. So what was it that you meant when you said you feel like this marketing team is run by AI?
Yeah, I made a note of it. I was going to message him later. I was like, oh, if this is something you want to do after. But yeah, okay. So here's the deal. Overwatch has arguably the worst reputation in gaming. Not company-wise, but as an individual IP. There's not many that I would argue that have fucked up enough times that are still relevant. Sorry. There are obviously things that have fucked up, and like they're such a bad fuck up that they died and they just disappeared. Of the living games that still people play and still crawls along, it is up there with like the
relevancy
worst.
to hatred ratio.
Yes. Like, because like you could say like, what was that game? Redfall or came out or whatever the hell, and it was like, it was like the worst game that has ever been released, and then it died like 2 months later, and they were like, we're gonna fix it, and then the studio shut down. So like, I'm not talking stuff like that. I'm talking like big fuck up, but people still play it, people still believe in it, people still play it. You are never gonna fix that. I'm sorry, that is never gonna be fixed. But what you can do is little by little start to, one, have your game be enjoyable. And I think Overwatch to the majority of players is enjoyable to a casual audience. But they also have the extreme fortunate situation that most FPS games that are AAA titles are struggling in some form or fashion, right? Like Apex is fucked at the moment. even Valorant, a lot of their creators, even though they probably don't know that they have it well, like kind of like, oh, like this is bad, or like games getting stale, whatever. CS2, a lot of people view as a step down from CS, and it's just going to have its same player base it pretty much always had. It'll be fine, but like, I don't think CS is growing right now. Fortnite's even having a bit of a sluggish time. I saw a couple like Ninja talking about Fortnite, and it was like he thinks the golden age is just completely gone, and the reason why he doesn't play with any of his friends like Tim or anyone like that is because they don't want to play that game. Like, people aren't playing it. Siege has been going through it a little bit, even though they had Jinxie kind of revive it. So you have all these games.
Can I interject really fast?
Yeah.
I could just adjust your argument here. How much of it is just the relevancy, like the not Gen Z, but just the relevancy of like the human attention span, where games like have a life cycle? Like, how much of that factors in? Like, just continue. Sorry.
Well, actually, see, I kind of coming back around. It's like, this is like everyone's kind of falling, right? So it's like, it's a good time. Like, this is Overwatch having an opportunity. But where I'm worried is Overwatch in the past has had this problem where they overpromise and underdeliver, right? But there was like a small good in that the overpromise kept people excited, and there was something to look forward to. Unfortunately, when you do that, you make people very disappointed if you don't actually follow through with it. Overwatch 2, aka Overwatch 1.1 memes, it was a good example because they expected the launch of the game to have the PvE in it, but they decoupled PvP and PvE to get PvP out the door faster because Overwatch 1 was in big decline, but they weren't good at marketing that. They weren't good at explaining that because it was supposed to be quote unquote redefining the sequel. So many things changed, and it's like people got very confused. How do you fix people's confused perception of Overwatch? Well, one, you need something massive. Like, something big has to be going on with the game. And a new hero release is never going to do that. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of people coming back, but your game will never grow. It will only retain. And if anything, when you're trying to like just like hold on and you're like slowly losing like people, you know, like almost like if you ever go in the shower and you go like this and like hold as much water as you can, like it slowly just like kind of, you know, goes out. They're kind of like doing that. And so I'm not saying Overwatch should overpromise, but I feel like they've almost come back too far where they're like, now they're scared. They don't want to say anything. And I thought the Xbox showcase was like, that is like your company. You're owned by fucking Microsoft now. Like, it probably takes some time to get some stuff out the door for it. But like, you have a new hero that's coming down the pipeline. You have a new season coming down the pipeline. You guys got nothing you want to show at all for the next like 6 months or more potentially. Like, and there could be an argument that is like, well, you know, that's a lot of like big upcoming stuff, and Overwatch doesn't have anything that's that big. Well, first off, that not a bit of a concern that it's not big? Like, you're not proud enough or not big enough stuff that you're like, we want to go out and promote it with everyone else? Yeah, is it probably going to get laughed at by other people? Or like, oh, like, you know, these games are coming out with all this content. Overwatch is just doing this. Sure, but you still showed the fuck up. And I respect showing the fuck up way more than not showing up at all. And it feels like in a lot of ways, Overwatch has kind of fallen further and further away from that, where they almost don't even want to compete. They don't even want to compete with them. They're like, oh, we're just going to do our own thing over here. We're just going to pump out, you know, our skins every season and our heroes every season, but it doesn't go any further beyond that. And how do you even get people to really come back to a game? There has to be something to talk about. There has to be cool shit. And I think one of the biggest things about it was cinematics. You have to get people excited about your game and people connected to your game. One of the most powerful things in marketing is emotion. And Overwatch's emotion is fucking gone. I feel like the game does not have much emotion anymore in any aspect. We don't have pro play really anymore. Pro play is, in my personal opinion, kind of a shit show now. There's a lot of potential, but it's not really going anywhere. And there's a lot you could probably talk about in that department. I don't want to go into it right now. But even like high level hypeness, like of like winning a world champion or something like that, that's completely gone. So that's like competitive side. You talking about on a lore side, well, their whole lore team basically got laid off. So whatever they were cooking up is probably toast or never going to see the light of day. And then you have it really hit hard with like Venture. When Venture released, like we got like what, like that very short kind of like nothing against them like that, like not like the comic almost. It was like I don't want to call it cinematic. It was almost like a trailer where they were like trying to like elude a little bit more. And then there was like a 13-page comic that came out, and that's it. And then nothing. And then people complain about like the skins and stuff, and I get that totally, but They don't build on their characters anymore. One of the most famous things in Overwatch is the Genji Hanzo Dragon cinematic. And that's what got people into Overwatch. And if you look at all the old cinematics, they're 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017, 2017, 2017, 2018, 2018. And then it just fucking disappears. And if you line that up with Overwatch's decline, they're actually pretty fucking spot on. It was like the less cinematics there is, and the last like love that's like true passion love given to the universe fades, so does people's love for the game fades. And so as a creator, I have to get people to come in every day. Like there has to be something, right? And every day I do try to do a little bit of something different, whether it's like a little spectating here if it's Overwatch stuff, sometimes a little bit of Yap session stuff, whether it's React stuff, whether it's like talking about stuff, so whether it's variety, whatever it might gotta be. Overwatch is just doing one thing and one thing only, and it's just pumping out skins in a hero every 4 months with some balance changes. You're not gonna get any gamers' attention at that point. We're the same as every other AAA FPS game on the decline. There's nothing to look forward to, and you already have a really damaged reputation at that point. I don't know if you're going to be able to reverse that if you got nothing big in the pipeline that you're willing to talk about, because unfortunately, Overwatch at this exact moment, I feel like still has so much potential that is not being capitalized on, even though the average gamer, probably if they play Overwatch, thinks, actually, it's not that bad. People hate this game a little more than they should. But nobody wants to say that publicly because it's everyone else's perception is the game blows, the game sucks. So people would rather be like, yeah, that game sucks. Have you played it? No. But my friend said it sucked. But if you had something that made your friend go play or like watch something, they would actually try the game again. And then I feel like that's how you change public perception. But there's nothing that forces that. You can't get someone to come in and try the new Reinhardt change. Nobody gives a fuck. So
the hero fantasy and like the emotional side of things is like has to be Overwatch's strength over like any video game that's even remotely approaching that franchise. Because I remember what initially got me into Overwatch was number one, my buddy tells me I gotta play it. I played Genji. He's like, you're gonna like Genji. Love Genji. But then it actually, I'm like the super like I don't give a frick about lore or person. I did though. I did. Like, as soon as I heard about the Genji cinematic, I'm looking up this guy as this voice actor. I'm looking behind the scenes. I'm doing all the, like, that was, like, so out of character for me back in 2017. And it was Overwatch that got me hooked into that stuff, you know? And so I feel like you're absolutely right. Like, that's what makes Overwatch super unique to these characters. Like, they're like, even, and it's still to this day, like, you look at somebody like Juno's personality or Venture's personality or even Lifeweaver's personality. I hate that guy, but he's like, he's got a pretty nuanced personality, you know? He's kind of a smug little bastard, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he knows it. And like that whole like micro interactions with Symmetra, and like, he's like got his own like pretty like hot takes on like society and life and politics and stuff like that. And it's like, man, like it's still there, you know, it's still there. How would you like, I'm sorry, I don't want to take your position, SVB, but like, I want to know, like, what would you do? What would you do differently? Because everyone's like, oh, just release a cinematic, but like,
so you mean like, what would I do differently with Overwatch?
No, flats. Yeah.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
I want to know because flats here. Like, I want to know, like, what would you differently here? Like,
so
maybe
I've got
broad concepts here. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've gotten a decent idea recently playing other games. Like I played some Concord because Emong had a sponsor. I had the Star Wars Hunters. Like I've just like it's honestly been great being able to try all this different stuff. And the number one thing, even if the game I felt like was pretty good, like a lot of times I just had no connection. I felt nothing to the game. It's like, okay, like for Concord, I was playing like giant trash can that sucked stuff up. It was basically like a diva. Like it was legitimately diva in a different game. And the guy barely talks, barely does anything. You just sometimes just like you hear like the little vacuum noise of your vacuum. That's it. Like it's just like, and you just hear clunk, clunk, clunk. There's no life in the games, like at all. And that was something that, because I agree with you on the whole, I don't really care about lore shit. Like I more care about the game is good. But I feel like everyone says that until they realize once it's gone how much they actually loved it and how much it actually gave Overwatch life.
One thing. I was super into the board gaming community. I still kind of am right now. And it's the biggest joke that everyone says that they don't like role-playing in the board game community, but they pick the board games with the most interesting themes.
Really?
Everyone likes role-playing. Everyone loves role-playing. They just don't know it.
Yeah,
they just don't know it yet.
I feel you on that one. I agree. Because I can tell you I'm kind of the same way where like, You know, like people have asked me like, oh, you should play D&D. And I'm like, nah, it's probably not going to be my thing. I didn't really like, I'm not a big RP guy. And then I played BG3 and my entire playthrough was dedicated to like, I had like a defining moment where I was like, if you fuck with me, I will kill you. And I killed like half the roster every time they tried to fuck with me. Like they were like,
ring and play for the drip, you know, you pick the outfit that looks the coolest. You know?
Yeah. There's like so many like, it was just from one moment where I was just like kind of like really into like the whole barbarian playthrough, and I was like, this is my character's identity now, and I must stick through it. And like, I'm gonna try not to like no spoilers, but like there's a moment where like something happens with a companion, and they try to hurt you in your sleep, and like most people just like, hey, like, you know, I understand you're just upset, like, you know, we can talk through it. Boom, just stabbed him immediately. People were like, you just killed like a super important character. I'm like, don't care. Shouldn't have fucked with me in my sleep. Yeah, and it's like going into the RP of it. But point aside, that's what people love. Like people do actually love that. And it's stuff like that. Like Apex is a good example that lacks, because Apex's gameplay loop is phenomenal. But like they try stuff with their characters as well, but it doesn't hit nearly as hard or as well as Overwatch. And especially like Sam talks about a lot with like the art style of Overwatch and skins and stuff like that is so good. And that's why all the casual players, their whole content revolves around buying skins. That's all they do. Like that's their content. They don't care about balance. They don't care about all this shit. They just want to load up, pick Kiri with their favorite skin and run around the map. And you notice something, Kiri is arguably the most popular hero in Overwatch now. Like, I don't know if you guys remember at BlizzCon, but like, the most cosplayed hero by far was definitely Kiri. It wasn't even close. And I feel like it used to be like Mercy before that, right? And even though Mercy hasn't had like a dedicated cinematic, she has like a cult following for her character.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that she can damage boost people, fly around and heal them. It's the character. Like people don't give a fuck as long as they can spread their wings on their cute character with their great skin and go like, wee, like they're having a blast.
I mean, Genji's just double dipping, you know?
Yeah, it's great.
And so
add on to that, Flats. Go ahead. You finish.
But like,
you go.
You have to bring that life, and like, there's so many ways you can kind of do it. Whether it's like investing in your in-game stuff, like the PvE being canceled is such a fucking disaster, because like that was a great opportunity for them. Even the shitty PvE ones we had, I like the cinematics were the best part of it. I don't even know why. Like that PvE must have been so fucking bad for them to cancel the whole thing, and it's supposedly done. Why did they not just release it for free? Why did the PvE why is it still behind a fucking paywall to this day? Like you could have just like, that was just free real estate. Be like, yep, here's what it was it's pretty much done. You know, here's some free content, have fun. And like, I'm sure there's so many voice lines, interactions, and things in there that people would have latched onto and they would have loved. But that's not how you get new players. That's how you retain current players who love your game. How you get new players beyond that is you got to kind of go big. You have to hit the big moments. There's big moments. Like Xbox Showcase this year was a big moment. BlizzCon being canceled is such a fucking shame, because BlizzCon was the first time in 3 or 4 years Overwatch has had positive PR ever. Like if you like, the general sentiment of the player base was this is good. Even the launch of Overwatch 2 was split between people saying this game is good and this game is Overwatch 1.1 and it's a piece of shit. BlizzCon was the first time people went, wow, it seems like they have a lot of cool stuff coming. And it even translated in the moment, because you could hop on and go play Malga. Kind of a shit character to get on to play the first time, not gonna lie. But you still, like, for the first time, they were like, yeah, you guys are all watching right now from home. They're watching the live stream. You guys are all watching at home. Yeah, here's our new character. If you want to play them right now, you can actually go load up Overwatch. They'll be available right now. People are like, oh shit, like that's fucking cool. And they go to hop in. But they also listen to all this stuff. And season 9 was the biggest season in Overwatch history since the launch of the game. Bar none. And so why did all these people come back for comp? The average gamer doesn't give a fuck about comp like 90% of the time. Like they queue up, play comp with their friends, but they don't care about their rank. They're like, oh, I'm gold, I'm plat, whatever it is. And they want to all rank up. But at the end of the day, they play like 5-6 games. Someone gets mad at their friend, or they're all mad at each other, or something happens and they move on, right? But that moment is what got people to remember Overwatch and be like, oh, they're changing the rank system. I remember that rank system wasn't fun. And they're adding new heroes. And this season looks like it's going to be pretty good. I'll hop on and try. But they always meet or lose those moments because you can't force them. And we know this as creators. I can't just force out 100,000, 200, 300, 400,000 view videos. Sometimes I gotta sit on my ass and I gotta wait for the next hero to come out, or gotta wait for the next big event. You gotta hit the big events. You gotta hit them. You gotta make it. Like, you got one opportunity. You have an opportunity coming up on this event. Boom, make it count. And they consistently fail on those. And then you get something really cool, like the breast cancer return of Pink Mercy coming out 4 days after Xbox's showcase. Why is that not? You'll just do a 30-second clip of, hey, this is Overwatch, and we're bringing back the best skin or the most famous skin in Overwatch's history for cancer research, and you can buy this one and this new one right now, or in 2 weeks, and you'll be able to do, like, people would have went, holy fuck, like, I wish I could have got Pink Mercy years ago and I never realized it. People would probably log on, buy Pink Mercy, and get off immediately. Like, that was such a big Overwatch universe moment. Nowhere. Guess what? They put it on Twitter. And don't get me wrong, it did well for their Twitter. But imagine if it was in front of millions of eyeballs instead of however many hundreds of thousands of views the tweet got. You know, and those live streams of Xbox Showcase go on to other clip channels, and then those go into other channels as well. And then there's also React channels that watch that right? Showcase.
Everyone's
you're talking millions.
Trickle down viewernomics.
You're talking millions and millions of viewers. That's why most creators, that's why Mr. Beast comes out and says, hey, if you want to react to my content, go fucking ahead. I don't care. You know why he doesn't care? Because every time somebody watches his content and says, hey, this video is pretty good, all of their viewers got to see that content, and some of them might go, yeah, that was pretty good content. And the next time a Mr. Beast video pops up on their feed, they might click on it, even if they never would have clicked on it before. It's fucking so smart. But you just gotta, like, make the effort. You just got to show the fuck up. And like, it's one of the biggest things in content and in media is sometimes you're having a bad day, but the best thing you can do is still show the fuck up. Even if you showed up for a couple hours or even a couple minutes, that's better than not showing up at all. And Overwatch has just not been showing up at all for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Dang.
Great. Right. Great.
I'm so glad I asked that question, man. Thank you, Vlad.
Good job, Flats.
Yeah, it was I think it was a good summary of some of those frustrations. I'll just quickly, because we have been going on, we haven't even begun to discuss things that are actually going on in Overwatch. So no. So I will just ask quickly if Spilo or Sam, you have anything you guys want to add before we actually talk about some of the other stuff.
I'll keep it brief. I think you nailed like the character identity stuff. I think, you know, Overwatch on the art side of things, I mean, they've always been special. Always, from the very beginning. There's not been another game that's come out that's hit the art side of things. And the person this is why, you know, when I was starting my war against Moira, people took it real personal, you know, because they love their characters, right? And that's something that no company, I don't think, will ever really top. Marvel's the first game that really has a chance to, because it's freaking Marvel, and you know there's hundreds of years of comics, and you're gonna get guys like me who, you know, love
hundreds of years. Sample.
Hundreds.
When did it start?
No, it's not 100 years, right?
Probably 100.
100, not 100. Sorry, 800. My fault.
I like the idea that some guy in 1500 was like, hey,
yeah,
yo,
dude,
this Iron
never
Man
know.
fucking slap his my friend.
Who knows, man? You never know. Maybe somebody did, but no, it's got like 100 years of history, right? A long time, and even then, like I still feel like Overwatch, just from a writing perspective and like what you feel in the game with these characters, you know, it's art. It from the game engine to like how you interact with the map. Like there's never been a game like it, which is why I hope they start treating Overwatch more like a game engine rather than just, you know, a franchise, right? If that's possible at all, investing more into things like the workshop, because I found it very interesting that, you know, people making comments about Fortnite not really doing too well, but if you look at the players and like a lot of the organic content they built on UEFN, which is where all their marbles are now. I mean, 40% of their shop revenue goes to UEFN, and they've got like $100 million grant pool for projects, including UEFN that are in Unreal 5, whether it be education or whatever it may be. Like they're taking it really seriously, and I'm betting on them, to be honest with you.
Good example.
You know, I think
they're not marketing it well. I bet most gamers don't know how well, because
No,
people think of
they
Roblox when they think of a game engine that like they can go in and hop in and do a bunch of shit. They think of Roblox, not Fortnite.
Yeah, and that's their big thing, because they're amping up their technology big time on it. And that's kind of their big goal, and I hope it works out, because it means a lot more. And this is where the big question comes in too. It's like, you know, are we really seeing a shift away from AAA titles in general to more indie studios and stuff like that? In the same way that, you know, you saw the cable industry really get beat out by things like YouTube, get beat out by things like Netflix. You know, is this the big shift? You know, if you think about, guys, think about this from like early 2000, like the Blizzard golden era, like 2000, 2010, even like, you know, mid 2015s. Shit, we're getting old, guys. I hate to say it, but we're getting there.
Sam, the YouTube thing goes so much deeper than you know. I can tell you off stream. I don't want to tell you here. But.
Yeah, sure. Please let me know on that. You know, is this another big shift in the world that we are? And this is one of the big reasons I want to be a content creator, guys. Like, we're riding the wave. We're on the front lines. Like, this wave is crashing down. We got our surfboards on top. And I think that some of the marketing stuff that Overwatch can do, I think season 9 like was a big example where it's like, you know, from a science perspective, I think the change in health pools is super, super dangerous, and there were definitely a lot of things left behind. But like the new rank system, my buddies got on and all played, stuff like that, really hitting those moments home. And I think they have a chance to do that. I've said this for a while. They need to drop the Overwatch 2 branding. Leave it behind you, right? Overwatch as a franchise is so much more than Overwatch 2.
What do you do? Okay, what good does it do to just come out and go, hey, we're just rebranding as Overwatch? What does it accomplish?
You don't do it randomly. You don't do it randomly. You do some kind of big update. You do something big. You have to save it for later. I wouldn't say just do it right now for no reason, but like they should plan to like leave that behind them. Because
what kind of an update would it need to be? Just curious.
It could be anything big. It could be something like the rank system.
Here's an idea. Maybe they go 6v6 and they rebrand it to Overwatch 1.
I was trying to lead him to it. I was trying to lead him.
I didn't want to say it.
himself.
I didn't want to toss myself at alley-oop, but when you guys throw me under the bus like that, I will. That would be the easiest one.
I will say this. This is like such a goofy nitpick, but it's funny. I freaking hate having to put Overwatch 2 in my YouTube titles.
Me too.
Oh, I know.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's just Overwatch.
You know what's even worse?
Does anyone actually say Overwatch 2?
The
outside
tags,
of like describe
dude,
Overwatch. Just say Overwatch. It's Overwatch.
It's pure algorithm.
Video tags. It's just it just makes
it's just algorithm. So yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll ever happen, but it is really cool. Like that has to be one of the biggest marketing disasters ever. Overwatch 2. I remember watching it and be like, "What is?" Okay, I don't want to.
Let's curb all of this. And,
but it's fine. Just to add on and close it out. You know, I think that if Blizzard should show off more of the art stuff that they do, because that's their wheelhouse. That's where they're great. That's where they've always been the best, in my opinion. I don't think anyone does.
They're so good at it, and they're so passionate too. Like I remember when I got invited to LA and talked with some of these like the art developers and stuff, and that was like the best. I don't even care as much about like the art map design stuff as much, but those guys freaking love their work and they're so excited about it, and they don't just do it because it's like, oh, AAA gaming studio. It honestly felt like, I don't know what to compare it to, because not like I go around to a bunch of game studios, but like it like you could have blindfolded me and told me this was like an indie studio and I would have believed you. Like those guys like really care about like the work that they do, and they really care about the design that they do, and the work shows, right? The effort shows in that side of things, and the whole hero fantasy side of things, and the personalities and the voice lines. And I've got one of the developers likes to jump up in my chat sometimes, Kyle, and he does a lot of like the animation stuff, and he loves his job. Like he and it shows, man. It shows, and it's like, if you're gonna lean in, like you gotta lean into that, man. Like, I know we're all like try hard competitive gamers here, and we want to see good and well designed, good product that's gonna keep people playing the game. But what's gonna get people emotionally connected and people even more trying things out is exactly what Flats is saying and what Sam is saying. It's like that's what makes Overwatch not just unique, but just it does it so much better than every other game. Like it's not even close. Like there just isn't any competition in that regard. You got to lean into that, and it does feel like the substance is still there, but somehow it doesn't feel like people know that. Like they're still releasing crazy cool characters and personalities, but it's not there. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. There's a strand that I could go on, but I'm going to save it now because I think we can maybe discuss it when we talk about pickable passes and stuff. In terms of like the output, I feel like there's something missing there in the output of compared to the love that you've spoken about, Spyle, that I've seen as well, that a lot of the developers have. But first, let's go back to Overwatch and talk about what we do have, and that's a new hero, at least for a few days. We have access to Juno, and it's always hard to make sweeping claims about what's going to happen because I feel like 99% of the time we're wrong in some fundamental way, right? Like it's very rare. I think people like to remind themselves of the things they got right. But usually what ends up happening is hero releases, we all think, I think this could be like this. And then like actually a month in, when we've actually had time to grind the hero, it's in comp, you see people sweating, you're like, okay, this hero is fucking ass. This hero is fucking great. So with that caveat in mind, I want your thoughts on Juno so far. What you think, whether you like her, you dislike her, if you think she's going to be like fundamentally good for Overwatch, because obviously this whole speed has been a thing that honestly we've been talking about since like the launch
Yeah,
Overwatch
long
1.
time.
Like
I know
launch
the
Overwatch
speed hero,
1,
yeah.
people were like, yeah, man, Lucio's like the only speed hero. That back when main support was literally just Lucio. Like the whole idea of having a main support was just we always got to have a guy playing Lucio. Somebody else is doing something else depending on the meta. So that question has finally been, I suppose, to some degree answered. So I'll take it to Spilo first. I think we haven't heard so much from you, Spilo, recently. Juno, is she delivering on the speed that was promised?
Yeah, I think the biggest, most important takeaway is exactly what you said. This is the first character that is since I think Wrecking Ball, where I actually don't feel like I have a full read on her place in the meta and like hero strength. Like I think every character, like I'd like to compliment myself and think that I understand the game kind of well, right? So I feel like I'm pretty good at quickly figuring out the new character's strength, like Echo and Malga and Life, even Kiriko and Sojourn pretty quickly, like exactly the strengths and weaknesses and how their kit flows in the game. I had a really hard time with Juno. Like I definitely got some initial reads for sure with the mobility and the range of the healing, but like finding how to play her is like the most challenging, and then as a result, finding how good is she actually as a character is like really hard. And you can read it from like all the comments. People are like, there's a huge variety of opinions on the character and what she needs and so on. So I think that's a really good sign. I think it's like there's a lot of love and a lot of nuance to the character. There's a lot of skill expression with the character, which is pretty ironic considering that there's no headshotting, which is pretty cool. Definitely some tweaks, which maybe we can get into in a little bit, that I think she needs. But honestly, like, wow, like Sam said earlier, like Overwatch. Imagine like instead of what was it the character that it was at Brig? What if instead of Brig's launch, we'd had Juno? And like, what would the meta have looked like, and how would that have changed? Like like, oh man, it hurts. You know, she's so much fun. She's so much fun. It definitely it's a labor of love. Like I definitely enjoyed her the more I played her because I got better at figuring out like how to play. But yeah, I mean, I really think great design, really cool, really unique.
Sam, how do you feel about it?
I mean, look, I feel great. This is the first time I've looked at a support and been like, you know, what a great job. I mean, the playmaking's there, the hero identity's there, like the thought is there, the execution's there. Like this, like Juno is the whole package of what Overwatch offers as a game. That's peak Overwatch right there, is what this hero is. And I was blown away as to how much fun she was to play. I had some games where I put out 20k healing in 10 minutes. It was crazy. A little bit lopsided teams that one game. Then I have some games where like it was a much harder. She's very, very thought provoking. I mean, from her health being a lot of shields to like rewarding you for not taking damage, which is super, super important in tandem with the passive, which makes you think. Like everything about Juno is all of the best pieces of the puzzle that make Overwatch a very fun and exciting game put into one character. And there's a lot that they could learn from this. I think if every hero in the game functions similar to this at a fundamental level, not in terms of like what they actually do, but like the decision making, like what parts of like fun they take from, whether she can be kind of pokey sometimes, she can be played into dive, like, you know, she's just great. Her ult, super interesting. You have to be very thought invoking, and that like, yeah, it's very powerful. I think it's the strongest support ult in the game, to be honest with you right now. Like how much healing it did, how much your damage got amped, like. That's the first ult that you can rip in a Kitsune and go fight in it and not be scared. Otherwise, you're always running from Kitsune, right? And like there were plenty of times where they Kitsune, I'd be like, all right, I'm ulting, like we're walking with this thing. So it's thought provoking that you got to be aware where it is. You got to walk with it. It heals you. You get more damage. And she just felt great, man. And now she might need to get tuned in either direction. I'm not entirely sure which one yet. But I think they got pretty damn close, to be honest with you. I think they're really damn close for a first try. I mean, Jesus, you know, like this is, I got to give Alec credit. I mean, wow, you know, that was damn good. And they should be really happy with where they took her, like what the thought is around her. I mean, talk about a contrast from Lifeweaver, you know, talk about like a polar opposite from Lifeweaver, which did need a lot, like a character like Lifeweaver is a lot harder to make him fair, right? Because of, you know, you guys get it. I won't go on that rant, but you know, even Alari, still, I still don't understand how they've not changed Pylon yet. When they came out and they said, we don't want Torbjorn Turret to feel like a 6th player, and they nerfed it, for Pylon to have 100% uptime is ridiculous. It's really unfun to play against that. To go to Juno to where it's like, everything you're doing is active. Every decision you make matters. The shots, the auto missiles, which is the thing that scared the crap out of me. You can LOS them. Like there's ways to counterplay. Every interaction is not only thought provoking but rewarding when you make the right decision. And that's Overwatch. That is Overwatch at its peak. And they should be really damn happy with what this was. They should be really damn happy with it.
I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear Sam so happy and so effusive, especially in the support category, which is usually one that
I know.
raises
Listen,
red
I
flags.
hope this is not a broken clock being right twice a day thing. I hope they keep doing this. But man, they should be really damn proud of what they did with this one.
Yeah, I think we discussed this maybe on one of the role debates, like maybe it was support debate, that like it's hard to actually tell when they're learning a lesson in terms of the hero releases because they're so planned in advance. Like the hero's been in
Right.
development for like a year. So it's really hard, like, when we see the launch of Life Fever, like, you won't necessarily see the lesson learned by the time Iliari comes around because, well, they already
Yeah.
probably set a lot in motion. Whereas maybe Juno, like, it's hard to know. Really, it's a lot of mystery for us. Only the devs would know, like, how far along the line was Juno when you started releasing heroes, and what did you put stuff into lessons? Flats, I'll take it to you. Are you as effusive as Sam in terms of this is Overwatch, this
Yep.
is cinema? I'm pitching Martin Scorsese, like cinema, this is Overwatch.
Yep. I unironically think that Juno might be a bit of a skill check character to a lot of players. It is scary the amount of people who are like, oh my god, they're terrible. Like what? Like they need buffs, or like this character's just bad. I'm like, no, they're not. Like there are 90 different ways I think you could break that character. Like if you just like buffed something, like anything from as simple as buffing a healing number or damage number or giving headshots to even just something like your hover gives you a double jump reset, right? Like you go even higher. Like let's say you double jump, then like hovered, then you can get a reset if you hit it again. There's so many things you could do to literally like tune that character even up higher, but you don't need to because they have very clear strengths and weaknesses. And there's games where I felt like I was absolutely rolling, and there were some games I was just getting checked by a Winston or a ball, and they're just like you're like, oh man, like I can tell like they are punishing me when I get too aggressive or something like that. And even the missiles, I found that like a lot of people were complaining like, oh, the missiles aren't even good. Like only get like 1 or 2 targets, which is true. But what I found was like they were almost a great response tool, almost like how you would treat like in some ways like Suzu or Lamp. I was playing a game where like my Rhine got shattered, and like everyone got shattered on my team but me, and like their team was like hiding around a wall, and the second they hit the shatter, everybody comes flying around the corner to come do that, and I just get a 9-man missile, and everybody gets healed on my team, and then it also has like the healing over time, and it does damage to everyone on their team at the exact same time as well. Somebody was low, they got picked, and so all of a sudden, even though they have a big shatter, it's a 4v5, I save the person the Rhine's going on, start shooting them with also the missile, and it's just enough. And then roll into the next fight because I did so much healing, and now I have ult again. And it's just like there's so many thought things that like I can put into it, and I can either play DPS style, I can play more healing. But a lot of players just think that they should just be able to shove their fucking healing gun up their tank's butt and then save them through anything. Or the reverse, like they should be able to duel every single DPS at any given moment and have 3 bailout abilities. And it's like, no, that's not how it should have been. Like this is actually how it should be, and it's really good. And it's the first hero since Junker Queen that made me really want to hop in and play a lot of Overwatch because I thought they felt like the best designed hero in Overwatch 2 since Junker Queen. Junker Queen to me just was like, having a tank that was that different. Like I remember at the time, I was like, this is like the best thing of all time. And this is very similar to that feeling. And I normally don't like playing support very much, but this made me consider maybe playing more support when she comes out. So I'm very heavily on this is great. They did a good job, Train.
Agreed. I'll say in terms of like power spike, we have to be really careful about like, I mean, I certainly am like any concrete opinions, whether it's too strong or weak or perfectly balanced, because it's like the quick play classic, right? We really don't know because nobody's playing him in ranked. And somebody in my chat was like saying that like, yeah, I watched Yeatle and she seems like unbelievably overtuned. And I'm like, you're watching Yeatle play quick play. Yeatle's like a ridiculously good player. Like Yeatle's gonna make anything.
Yeatle is unbelievably
right?
overtuned.
Right. So it's like I think that like the thing that is ironically more objective is the subjective. How does a character feel? Right. Like regardless of how. So like she might be too strong. She might be too weak. Like I think like I agree with Flats. It's really a skill check character. It's going to take a lot more effort. But in terms of how the character feels, Yeah, like she feels great. And like Flats was saying, like you don't just exist in the back line. You don't just turn your brain off in DPS and then TP out. You actually, there's so many layers of how you play. Like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, glad to hear again all you guys in unanimous praise. I don't have too much to add because I got like 3 games of Juno in. Like I was trying to solo queue, and it was like
Tough.
20 minutes, and I'm like, like you're just like not paying attention because you've been sat in queue for 20 minutes, and then like the one game you get in, some other guys locked you before. You're like,
I did
Sucks.
pugs
Sake.
only. I only did pugs. That's why.
A lot of people were like, do pugs, do like whatever. I was like, whatever. I'll wait. I don't mind. I don't feel the rush to have to go play the hero. I'll wait and see when they actually release. And I will say though, what I think is cool about Juno is that she feels like a proof of concept almost, as Flats alluded to about like Junker Queen was like this first Overwatch 2 hero that was like, oh man, this feels great. She feels like proof of concept that you can pack someone's kit and it's still fair. Because that's kind of what Junker Queen is, and that's kind of what Juno is, where it's like, if you look at on paper, Juno is like an Overwatch 2 hero by definition, because she's got like a little bit of everything. It's like, oh, she's got a double jump and a fly and a speed boost that can speed boost herself already, and then also her team, but then also herself again. And she has like, an ult that's like healing and damage boost. So it's like one of these things where you're like, and her gun, it's like it damages and heals. Like it's like, oh my god, it does everything. Like she does everything. But none of it feels obnoxious, right? None of it feels like, I think the fairness again, just none of it feels unfair.
There's
as you
no
guys point out.
overrides. There's not a single override ability on the kit, and that's the key thing right there.
Exactly.
And
as you guys point
all
out,
the abilities have 2 purposes. Like you can always do aggressive or defensive, team or yourself. And if you use your missiles for support, you're open naked to duels. And so there's like, you have to choose. Like it's like the big nade example, Sam, we always talk about, right? Like you use it that way, you're gonna miss out.
Be vulnerable. There's a drop off to everything, and it's just, God, it's Overwatch, dude. It's just freaking Overwatch.
Yeah, so I think that is encouraging. Again, as we said, we don't really know when the dev cycle of heroes comes through, but that is encouraging. And as you guys point out as well, the like not headshotting at first as well, I was also like, she doesn't headshot. I don't know about that. Like I feel like, because like I'm coming from like a BAP mentality, but I play a lot of BAP when I play support, and I'm like, okay, I wanna dink this guy, I wanna delete this guy, but then on reflection, you're like, maybe it's better that I can't just delete someone in like one burst. Like I can't just delete someone in one volley. Like if it is a DPS dueling the support, it's gonna like take some time. There's actually some time to kill on it. So I think all these
you
aspects.
You can have a utility. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Spell. I was just gonna say all these aspects are good.
Yeah, it proves to me that you don't have to have like an aim reliant character to have a nuanced support design. I think that like a lot of people are like advocating for like, oh, Life Reaver and Mercy. Well, they're just more like utility supports. Like we don't always need an aim support. But to me, I'm like, yo, they can make a support that doesn't feel quite as mechanically reliant, but has just as many decisions, just as much game sense objectively at a higher level. Like it's possible, right? We could do that. You can have like the Winston or the Reinhardt of supports. You know what I'm saying? Like there it is, right? At least in theory.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit harder. I think it's a little bit harder than like a Winston or Ryan. Like you do have to, especially with squishier targets, you are gonna
right.
It's gonna be.
I mean, you still find Rachel Winston, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'll be curious to see how players in gold, like how successful Juno is. I do hope. I'll throw it out there. I do hope that her success in gold is no bearing on how the hero is treated, and I think that if you are in gold and people are like, man, Juno ain't working, I hope that doesn't change anything about Juno. I hope we don't suddenly see some like ridiculous tuning to be like, well, maybe she needs to have 50% win rate in gold. So I'll be curious what that happens, but let's just keep going on this line. It sounds like everyone's pretty happy. I haven't really seen too many people unhappy. Like I haven't seen someone be like, man, this is obnoxious. I haven't seen any practice range clips of like, look at this, look at what you can do.
I see the meme ones.
Did
The meme ones are
you see
good.
Derpies? Derpies had me dying.
Yeah,
that was so funny.
It was
he picked Widow, got tractor beamed, damage boosted and nanoed on the tracer, and then fucking one shot her in the body and goes, oh my god. It was really funny.
Before we move on,
oh my god, what?
Before we move on,
yeah,
really quick, because Dante's not here, I feel like I'm gonna step in really quick. If you agree or disagree, I want to stamp Juno with the honorable stamp.
The honest hero.
Honest hero. Honest. Do we all agree? Honest.
Yes.
Honest hero.
Honest hero. Okay.
I fucking love Dante.
Thumbs up.
Dude.
Caesar says thumbs up. Yeah, I think good job. Good job. You know, we spend a lot of time criticizing the dev team. And of course, there is no homogenous dev team. There's a lot of different departments, but
Yeah.
good job. I think everyone seems happy, basically, which
The
is
whole
always a
thing,
good
the art, the lore in game. It kind of reminded me of Doomfist's first trailer. You guys remember when, or maybe was that Orisa where they put the punched wall in Numbani?
It was
Did
Doomfist. It
Orisa
was
come out, or was it
Doomfist.
Doomfist that
No, it
came
was
out?
no, you were right. It
It
was
came out Orisa. Everyone thought it was Doomfist, and then it was Orisa.
Yeah,
So
I think you're right. I think you're right on that one, actually.
yeah, yeah, it was good
Yeah,
though.
and I
liked it.
think, and you know, to be a little bit cynical, also another very cute girl character, which people love. Like people fucking love the.
Hey, Juno's gonna be selling some skins. Okay, let's not beat
Yeah,
around
I
the bush
mean-
here. Juno's gonna be selling some skins.
Her design genuinely is adorable. Like I really like the little crescent, like the hair
That was
color. You
good.
know, like
It was
the
good.
color which is like the shape of the moon. The voice acting seems really good. Like I
Yeah,
really
there was a
like the
line where
voice
she
acting.
kills May, and she's like, sorry, Auntie May," or something like that.
Yeah,
I thought
sorry,
that was
like, and
cool.
yeah, it's always nice as well. You get like these. I think Overwatch used to do this a lot, where new characters would like connect with old characters in some way. Like I'm not averse to characters like, let's say in Iliari, where like there's no relation to anything. I think that's cool too, because I do want to see that explored. Like now I'm curious, like what happened in Peru and like what happened here with this like Sun Warrior people, right? But it's also cool when you see like, you know, Ana releases and you're like, oh shit, this is Farah's mom. What the fuck? She abandoned,
Yeah.
like, you know, all that stuff. And it's cool to see like, oh, she knows May, or like they have this history and like what was going on with this like potentially Juno's mother. More stuff that goes back to the lore thing. We won't go right back into like, you know, explore the lore. Come on, guys, you know, let's make some cool stories happen. But I like those elements. These are all the elements I think people really gravitated towards Overwatch 4. Okay, so that's good. That's a good thumbs up. How are we feeling about the pickable passives now? So again, I will have to I have philosophical thoughts on the pickable passives. I don't have detailed thoughts on the actual specifics of what happened. So I will need your guys' opinions and expertise on your verdict on the pickable passives. I'm gonna go to Spilo first. Spilo, pickable passives, are they poor or perfect? I'm trying to stay with the P's.
Problematic.
Yeah. Let's go.
That was
let's
good.
go.
I like that one.
I think there's like no real surprises here. I think everyone in this call is we've had more than enough rants on the whole concept of passives. I like the concept of quick play hacked. I think the execution of like, you know, maybe the passives that they chose could have been a little bit better. There was like just basically free survivability on tank. The DPS passive choices were largely relatively boring. The support ones were broken. Still the same problems with passives where some were really good, like Moira, all of them were good. And then you have poor Hanzo, who's just like, hey, I can see you through walls if you're low. Like literally nothing, yeah. I don't know. I think that like I made a whole video discussing it. It's the same three problems that I have with passive. It's free value, where it's not. I don't feel excited about using the passive 95% of the time. It's there. It's there to mostly just to take you off and doesn't really help me out all that much, at least in terms of like making my engagements more interesting. It's also painting with a broad brush, right? So like, you know, everyone gets this passive. Okay, well, not everyone benefits from that passive equally, right? So you could look at pickable passives, be like Moira got significantly buffed, Kiriko got significantly buffed, Brigitte got significantly buffed, but a character like, let's say, I don't know, Zen got basically nothing, right? He got the speed boost when he's low, which is kind of useful, but like he basically got nerfed indirectly. And then so it's just broad brushes, which is really hard to do with passives. Even if you make more, it's like you have to make like a ton of passives for that to work. And then the last one was the optics, which in the way that it was implemented, just in quick play hack, which is not a big deal, it just was so confusing. Like you had no idea what other people were running. You had no idea, like, because it changed engagements, like how you played versus certain characters. Like I had one game on New Jung City where I had played Moira with the cooldown reduction just for giggles. I literally could not die. Like I had fade every like 4 or 5 seconds, orb every like 6 seconds. Like I just didn't die. Like you literally could not focus me. I was just DPSing and trolling the backline the entire game. And that's important. Like that's important for them to know that like, hey, I'm unkillable here. You can't focus me, right? I think they could probably add it to the stats menu. Like you press tab and you could see like what passive if they were to utilize it. But you know, honestly, like it's just passives. It needs to be a hero passive thing if they're going to utilize it. It needs to be tailor-made to the character. I love the idea that they're trying to incorporate. I think I talked with Alec and he's like, they want more knobs to tweak. I think this is what they're trying to do. I think they're like, maybe let's see, maybe there's some more knobs to tweak, more knobs to balance, which is like, you know, I respect that and I respect them trying aggressive things. I just really don't like role passives. I think they're just bad.
Yeah, I mean, before we get any else's opinion, I want to relay that my chat had a poll going about is Juno an honest hero or not. We had 95% honest, and that's high numbers for
That's
an
saying
Overwatch
something.
hero.
Yeah.
That's
Surely we would
like
have
you don't see
influenced
that.
that vote. Surely we
We
didn't
would have.
influence that.
There's a bias that we were all in approval, so chat is likely to be in approval. But sometimes people don't give a fuck. Sometimes people come in, they're like, I think this is fucking great. And it's like, there's some of the most troll ass opinions. So, anyways, that's some indicator. Sam, how you feeling about the pickable passes? I know Flats has a lot, so I'm going to save him.
Can we stop doing this shit?
Yeah.
Look, every health pool is what it is for a reason.
Uh-oh.
Every cooldown is what it is for a reason. Every heal amount, all of it. It's all where it is for a reason. There is no way to healthily implement global changes and choices like that at a broad level for every character when they're all designed to do different things. They're all going to some are going to benefit way more and some are going to benefit less. If a character needs a passive, give it to them specifically. I played Brig with the healing passive. It was insane. It completely undid the DPS passive, which remind me why we had to put that in the game post season 7, because healing was so broken that there was just no DPS queue times were instant. It was unplayable. Ramatra with the cooldown reduction was insanely OP. Insanely OP. Diva with 500 armor that's been gigabuffed. Insanely OP. Lucio amp healed and survived my echo beam. Are we serious? Like, you know, I just...
Winston, did you play Winston? You could jump in, bubble, you'd get low, you jump back out, and you go right back in with bubble like 2 or 3 seconds later. Like,
I did not try Monkey.
And look, crazy.
It's cool for like a couple days to get silly and wacky April Fool's style. That's totally fine. Totally fine. But for the love of God, guys, I'm trying to do you a favor right now. Do fucking not put that in the live game. Don't do it. Please. Please don't do it. I'm begging you. Don't do that. Just don't. Just do yourselves a favor. We tried role passives. If you want to give a hero a passive, give it to them specifically. I'm okay with you guys having your fun and quick play hacked. But for the love of God, please don't break the game in an unfixable way. You just can't. It's impossible. It's too hard of a job. Like, that's not even, I wouldn't even say that's a knob to turn. It's not even really a knob that you're turning. You're just throwing all of the hard work you've done out the window, essentially, is what you're
Finessed
doing.
enough is what it is. It's too big of a knob.
It's too big. You can't, like, there's no attention to detail in there where you can just, like, get in there and, like, work on one character or something like that. It's too hard on you guys. And it sucks because, like, I think, Flats, I saw your video this morning or whenever somebody told me to watch it, where you were comparing balance changes in Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and there were, like, several hundred more in Overwatch 2. Like, you know, it kind of frustrates me a little bit to see the balance team get blamed for a lot of the issues in the game right now. And then, you know, it's hard to get that across to an average player, where it's like, if you throw these in the game, you make the balance team's job impossible. Listen, I'm all for giving them crap when they mess stuff up. I do it more often than most people. But, like, even when I'm looking at this, I'm like, how do you expect these people to do their jobs when you're putting in these massive globally changing variables that quite literally break everything in the game? You just can't do it. It's just not worth it. No more role passives. Stop it. And also get rid of the retaining ult charge thing when you counter swap too. Stop rewarding counter swapping. We don't need to do this anymore. Get it out of the game. It didn't work. Stop it. You know, we're good. The global healing one is the only good one. That's the only good one.
True. No, 100%. I mean, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I just rattling me up now. This is my version of this is my 9/11, my 6v6. I apologize for chuckling, but I couldn't help it because I was doing some stream stuff and I just hear Spyler go, "That's way too big of a knob," and just like, because obviously for those who may be unaware, in British slang, knob is a sort of slang for male genitalia. So just hearing Spylo be like, "It's way too big of a knob," just out of nowhere, I'm like,
we're salt when we need him. You know, we're salt when we need him. I'm sure he'd have some words.
I'm sure he would have picked up on it too. So, Flats, the pickable passives. I think I know where you're going with this, and I think I know how I'm gonna vibe off of you. But go ahead, hit me.
It was a fun event. I enjoyed playing it for a few minutes. No, I played it for a little bit more longer than a few minutes, but Very clearly, obviously, the biggest flaw is you notice immediately. Some heroes benefit extremely well from it. Some heroes don't. All that's been said. So I'm not going to repeat anything that's been said. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far. Here's the problems. One, I would say really quick for Sam's thing, because Sam was talking about how it's hard to balance every hero, and whenever we have the war next week, my biggest argument, by the way, is going to be that healing and damage is still way too high in current day Overwatch, and that's one of the biggest problems that we still face. This kind of exasperated it a little bit with the whole, the healing passives and whatnot. But I also just don't like passives. I think passives are good, and I think Aaron made a great point with his blog that he came out before the tank patch. He came out and said, listen, we have come to the realization that passives don't move the needle enough. Even if they do, people don't feel like they do. And that even if we make major adjustments to passives, players don't feel the impact. So we're making adjustments to passive and to individual heroes, which is kind of why I think they went with the 16, like the 200 shield adjustment, because I think Ryan is probably a very dominant tank right now in the metal ranks, and they didn't want to like buff him too much, but like they had to give him something because everyone's getting something. It was one of those situations. That's my running theory at the moment. But I think back when passes first got introduced, like not like the Genji Tracer one, but like when they originally gave Ryan the CC passive in Overwatch 1, because he was getting booped around so much you literally couldn't play the game. And they were like, well, this is supposed to be a big, heavy hammer character. We'll give you a passive. And that was, to me, at least, when they really started to kind of like bring in the idea of like, if we gave these certain heroes these abilities, that makes sense for the character in their like what their idea is, almost like hero fantasy, then that would be okay. And then we kind of just started to go off the rails really quickly. The whole passive of ult charge. And their whole logic behind it is like, oh, people don't even really swap anyways. That ended up not being true. It never got walked back. I think the healing passive is fine where it is, but like even the CC passive for tank, I don't like it. I think it's bad. I think certain heroes should have the CC passive stronger than others, if anything. So I think like Ryan should probably have the strongest because he's like the slow get close hammer. And then like as you go up to like your Winston divas, like it shouldn't be 50 or 40. It should be like 10 or 20 or something much smaller. Because like, yes, like Winston has to be up close to do damage, right? Like I understand like wanting to have some CC immune or CC reduction because these characters have to engage close, but they also have hyper mobility. So it's like they're not all like they have tools to still get in there. While Ryan has to basically put his life on. Huh?
Can I interject real fast?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just remembered something. I apologize. The funny thing about the CC thing too is it's so overrated too, because I played a little bit of Wrecking Ball with it. And the thing that screws Wrecking Ball is like the engage gets screwed up, right? Or those moments of fragility. And the CC thing actually didn't help with those that much. You still got whip-shotted, you still got hacked out of your slam, or you still got hindered. Just because it lasted like 0.25 seconds longer, you would either still die or you still would screw up your engage. So it was like it didn't. I need some way of outplaying that. I don't need it to last. If you hit it, you hit it. You know, I should get punished for that. But like, sorry, go ahead.
Or you even live, but like you're so low HP that you can't do anything for like you're basically a spectator until either you get healed up, which you probably can't, or you're running to the health pack, so you're out of the fight for 6, 7, 8 seconds, right? Like still fucks you up enough. And then it's like not every hero needs a passive. At least like I don't think they do. If you wanted to go the route of giving every hero like a passive tree, right? Like let's say like you go Apex style where like as throughout a match you can level up. Like I talked about my idea of it like sometime here is like basically to discourage counter swapping. As you play through a match, you can build up your hero more, but when you swap, either you like lose a lot of that or lose all of it or lose a percentage of that, and so like you gain a better matchup, but you don't have as strong of a character anymore, like something along those lines. But the problem is though is just like that would take a lot of work building passives for every hero in the game. Multiple passes for all those heroes would take a lot of work and a lot of balance and a lot of testing, and it would be hard to probably balance as well. So I can see why they haven't done it, but the like broad stroke passives just aren't good. And like when they are good, it's just like they're too good, but like you don't even notice that they're good as playing it. You more notice it on the opposite end, so it becomes something that's more frustrating to play against. And And so it's like, what's the point? Like, why do we have these here? Like, I know, like, we're trying, like, they want more knobs and stuff to adjust, but like, now that they've kind of come out and realized, like, yeah, you know what, we can chalk the tank with 9 passives and it still feels like ass. But you know what makes it feel better? Giving them another 150 armor. Like, it's like, well, you know, now you get the formula. You know what I mean? It's like, why even need to have all these specific passives? I don't even think the DPS passive should exist. It's necessarily evil because they never wanted to nerf healing from Season 8. They were too afraid of the backlash of every support player screaming their heads off and like that's healing had went down. And healing needed to go down and damage across the board needed to come down as well. I'll let you go, Sam, real quick.
I wouldn't even say it's just healing post Season 8. I think, and I'm gonna bring, and I want to recite this later and bring this back. I think it's healing creep post 5v5 because remember when they first buffed every support, it was after the first beta. BAP shift, Brig Packs, I guess in Season 3 got the buff. Zen got his kick. This is Overwatch 2 creep in general. I don't even want to just sort of limit it to one season, but go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like over time. Yeah, it's come up a ton. And damage has come up a ton. And I mean, even in Overwatch 1 towards the end, we still had a little bit of a problem with it because like all these heroes were supposed to get tweaks after goats, but they never did. Like that literally just never happened. Like that was the big promise of roll queue is, oh, we need to make adjustments to all these heroes, and then it didn't happen. So double shield was almost kind of a necessary evil because a lot of the other tanks like kind of struggled unless you played like the hog sigma off angle or the ball hog ball sigma, like kind of play on your own type of things. It was a little bit of there's actually so much history of like how this has kind of come to be over the years. But I just don't think passives have done us any good. I think if you want to give certain heroes a certain passive, I think that's fine. But I don't think overall, like, you're not really making anyone's experience better. And everyone who probably played this quick play hacked was like, yeah, okay, like some things are good, some things are bad. It wasn't that exciting, and probably questioned it and said, why are the quick play hacks not like the bigger things, like the things like most people think that they want to hear about? You could argue the 6v6 stuff. You could argue making like something towards tanks, especially. Obviously, we ended up getting the super patch too, but like before that was announced, like that's just kind of like the line of thinking, like why not talk about things that would make these certain roles that are maybe suffering better. I don't know, but yeah, I just think the passes overall are getting a little bit out of hand and it's not really useful. I'd rather see individual hero balance changes than tweaking my passive headshot reduction from 25 to 20%. Like whoop-de-fucking do, I guess. It only matters on heroes that don't have armor anyway. You know what I mean? It's fucking stupid.
I've got a long train to go on, so before I hop on board, Despilo or Sam, do you guys want to say anything about what's been said there by Flats? Okay, both shaking your heads. So again, I think you guys, eloquent as always, have said everything that needs to be said in the details of how the experiment was done. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I'm going to say two things. One in defense of the devs, and one in criticism of the devs, as I often like to do. So in defense of the devs, I'll say, I think people sometimes are harsh on them for trying an idea, especially in something like a quick play hacked, where it's like, it ain't that deep. You know, this is not, I don't think they would ever say, this is what we're thinking adding to the game, guys. Like, we want these things to be in the game. It's like, it's a proof of concept. It's just an idea. It's like, hey, guys, what do you think if we did this? We didn't really have a lot of time to figure out the numbers. We didn't really think too hard about what we were going to just throw it out. You know, maybe this is the kind of stuff they do internally all the time, right? They're just like, hey, guys, this week we made a build and you can pick from a passive. What do you guys think? So I think kudos for trying. I think it's a great different direction to try. In criticism of the devs, I don't know how fair or unfair this is, but I have started to wonder sometimes why things don't change more drastically or more quickly in these kind of elements. And I want to take it over to Dota 2, because as I told you guys, the 2 weeks I spent off, a large chunk of it was spent just hard diving into Dota 2. It was just like hard grinding, watching, because there's the Esports World Cup going on. There's like loads of pro Dota 2 games. It was like watching literally like 10 hours of there's like a 10-hour stream or whatever. I'm watching like all of it every day, like the 10-hour of it. And Dota is a great example because it has just recently done essentially what this is. The pickable passes is essentially what Dota has done, but individually. So what they did for like the God knows 100 and whatever fucking heroes, they did this thing called innates and facets, So what they did was make every heroes have like an innate ability, and then they would have 2 facets that you pick from at the start of the game. And usually what they did was just innate. The innate ability was just normally what was already part of the original hero's kit. I'll try and relate it in Overwatch terms so it's a little bit more understandable. So let's say what you might do is if it's Baptiste, right? You would make his exo boots his innate ability, let's say. So it's like, rather than it just being like a thing that exists on map, you're like, okay, his innate ability is he has a jump that makes him different from the other supports. He has a jump that can be charged up the exo boots. And then you would get one of 2 facets. So the example at Overwatch, it'd be like, immortality field now is a damage amp instead of an immortality field, right? You can pick the damage amp immortality field, you put it down, and everyone who's in it is getting a damage amp. Or you can pick what you already know as the immortality field. That's like it's an immortality field, or something like that, where it's like a passive is his facet is his let's say his grenades heal twice as much on direct hits, whatever it is. So you'd have a choice of this hero has these 2 playstyles, and I'm choosing at the start of the game. This is the playstyle I want to lean into. It works really well in Dota because a lot of heroes can be played in a lot of different ways anyways. Like a hero like, you know, Reinhardt might be able to be played as a tank, but you could also play him as a DPS, but you could also play him as a support. So being able to choose and say, hey, I want to choose the support Reinhardt today. So actually his Fire Strike heals people now, right? Like this is obviously not anywhere vaguely realistic. I'm just trying to give you an example, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So I think that's like a really interesting idea. At first, when Dota announced it, I was like, fuck that shit, man. I just got my hang around Dota and they completely reinvented the game. What the fuck is this? But like after a week or two, I was like, man, this is really interesting because it's shaking up the whole game. And some of the facets are better executed than others, right? It's like some of them, one is way better than the other. Like you're never picking the second one because one of them is just fucking broken. And some heroes obviously suffered and some heroes thrived. But that's the nature of a live service game that you're balancing. Like you're always going to, whenever you change like a bunch of things, something's going to lose, something's going to win. But it's super interesting. It gives like so much more depth and flexibility to so much of the roster. And where I criticize the devs is that I'm like, the passes are so lazy. I hate using terms like that because I know the devs work really hard. I know the devs are like doing crazy amounts of work. And I know they're under a lot of pressure. Like, you know, we know how shitty these big corporations, like first Activision and then Microsoft, have been. But like we surely we only have like 40 heroes compared to like the 100 plus of Dota, and they were able to give every hero a choice of 2.
What's
and
that guy's name?
ability.
Ice Frog? Is that the guy who balances their whole game, or like a former pro or
He
something?
was
What's
the
their
original
story?
guy who made. So he made the initial Warcraft 3 custom game called Dota All Stars, and then they hired him to be like the lead developer, lead balancer. So yeah, they hired him to be the lead balancer on Dota 2. So so people do say like bless Ice Frog, you know, thank God for the Ice Frog buff here for my hero.
I was trying to get my lore right. That sounds really interesting, and I think the key point there has to be in the differential you make is like those are those examples you gave, like Baps, for example.
Yes,
that's an active change to your active play style. That passive choice that you made completely changes your gameplay loop. It's not just like, I heal more when I'm low. It changes your entire decision-making process and how the game actually functions. These passives don't do that. They just make what you're doing a little bit better or a little bit worse or whatever it may be. And that's an interesting concept. And I don't think you're wrong to say lazy. I don't think you mean it in the way where it's like they're not doing the work. I don't think that's what you're saying.
It's too broad stroke. It's just too broad stroke. It's just like we have a problem with a lot of tanks, and some of them are similar and some of them are different. Fucking slap a thing on top, right? It's like it's the band-aid. So you know that meme with the guy who's like the leak from the slaps the thing on. That's what it feels like. It's like we could do this free. I believe you, like, because here's the thing: when they abandoned the PvE skill tree, like I get it, because they might say it's like a skill tree. Like we abandoned PvE because we couldn't make the skill trees. But that was because they wanted to make like these 15 different paths you could go down, and one of them gives you like ice fire strikes or whatever, you know, like, and there's a big visual change. It doesn't need to be a visual new ability that you're throwing out. Just give someone a different playstyle.
Functionality,
again, like if you surely it doesn't take animation changes to just make immo okay when you drop it, because you could do this in the workshop. Like when you drop it, it doesn't immo anymore. It does this now, or his shift doesn't do this. It does something else now. You don't need to create new art, new animation. And I believe that they have the capability, they have the understanding to just like think about each hero and be like, there's like two ways to playing BAP. You could play like the aggressive BAP. You could play the passive BAP, the heal bot BAP. You could play the aggressive Ana. You could play the defensive Ana. You could play the YOLO Rhine. You could play the shield man Rhine. Like you can do this. I believe.
What if like
you can
Suzu
do
was like,
this.
instead of an immortality, it was a cleanse negation ability that like lasted over time, so you could use it in anticipation of a dive for your team or something like that. Something that changed how it all works. I see exactly what that could be interesting.
You could
I'm
even
always
have
with
like passive value, but that if it specifically changes exactly how you play. Like you guys
Right.
ever played Age of Empires 2? Like a lot of these civilizations will have like passives that like they'll go harvest deer 20% faster, or you don't need to build houses, or your farms work more efficiently. It's like you don't actually need to consciously change. You don't need to do anything for that to be in effect, but it completely changes how you strategize and you approach the thing. And everybody knows, oh yeah, they're playing this civilization, so they have this bonus, so that therefore they're going to play more in this play style. And you still, so it's like it cognitively changes how you strategize around the game. And again, it's done on a civilization by civilization basis. You don't have global things that you can choose.
So I think that's my feeling on it, is that even reading it, I was like, we're kind of making the same mistake again with the passives. Like the idea, like it's in the name, it's passive. It's a very passive approach to balancing and playing the game. Just like, oh, shove this on top. I think they can do a better version of this, and I hope that this was just a proof of concept. Like I said, that they're like, okay, it was interesting. How about now one for every hero? Like, how about two? A choice of two for every hero. Because that's interesting. That's a different type of Overwatch. I want to see what that looks like. I want to see if it makes the game more fun. Like, it might solve a lot of the counter swapping issues as well, is because like, okay, in this game, I'm anticipating that when I play Doomfist, they're going to pick 5 CC characters. So I'll pick the thing that lets me be more CC immune, versus a different game where I'm like, actually, I'm okay being CC'd because I don't think that's going to happen. I want to go for the more aggro Doom. I want to go for the guy who gets more damage with whatever, right? So, them's the beans from my POV.
As long as we are okay with bailing on it if it doesn't work, because I do think that there's obviously, but there is something to be said about some of the first-person shooter mechanics complicate these decisions so much. I think you could argue that even a lot of like the Overwatch 1 mistakes were like trying to force an RPG mode onto a first-person shooter. Like everyone jokes about like the whole MOBA-esque style of playing, but like was a legitimate criticism of like how Overwatch 1 ended up being.
True. Yeah, relevant point. And sometimes because something works in another game doesn't mean it transfers into this game. You could try it and it's like, actually, this feels ass. But I think if you were going to try, I think I'd like to see that. If we're going to go down this path, I'd like to see that.
Sure.
Anything else you guys want to add about the pickable passives before we move on? No? Okay. Well, there you go. A little bit of a breadth of opinion on the passives. Let's move on then to, we actually haven't even talked about the actual current patch and current state of Overwatch. And that is the tank buffs. Like, there's no dancing around the elephant in the room. Everybody's talking about giga tanks. I've seen everyone ranging from losing their minds. I've seen some more people convert to the 6v6 side. So Sam's probably like, yeah, let's go. Good job, devs. Got me more recruits for the war.
To stop this from happening. So I'm kind of along for the ride at this point.
And I've seen some people be for it. So yeah, go ahead, Sam. Were you saying something?
Well, can I start this one off, or do you want to go?
Yeah, go for it. You go. No, I don't have too many thoughts on this. So you go.
I don't like it, and here's why I don't like it. I think what made Overwatch such a dynamic game and made it so much fun was the beauty of every role being able to play make on each other. I've said this for many years on the show, SVB. It shouldn't be about what you pick. It should be more about like how you play. Now, what you pick should matter, obviously, but ultimately, I think the game's at its best when it's more about like how you play above all else. And obviously, hero picks are always going to matter to some degree. I can't tell you how unfun it is as a support or DPS to know no matter what you do, an overwhelming majority of the time, you have no option in the matchup. I think it takes away from that depth. It takes a game that was beauty was in the chess of the game and makes it checkers. I hate it. I hate it when a diva's in my face and there's literally no play I can make unless I absolutely am on the right matchup, like playing Sim or even Echo Beam. Like there's been times where I full stuck a diva, shot her a couple times and beamed her, and she still lives at base. It's ridiculous. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's way too good. But if you're going to make tanking fun in 5v5 and you're going to have this solo tanking work, that's probably one of the directions that you have to go, which is why I think the format is fundamentally flawed. This patch just kind of doubled down on that in all the wrong ways. I think there are definitely better ways that you can do it to give Spylo his flowers on that one, but I still think even if you did that, it wouldn't capture what made this game so special for a lot of people to play. And after playing the 6v6 code where everybody could make plays on each other and that depth was back there and the tank health pools were all lower, their exchange was brought back. You had way more freedom of picking. It makes me triple down on my take on this. This isn't solvable. And like, no matter what this is the only option that you have to make tanking more fun in this format when you've removed their exchange and they have to solo tank and they're constantly going to be getting the pressure. It's the only thing that you can do. And the fun is going to come at the expense of someone else. And like, as a DPS player, post season 9, really, first the season 10 headshot buffs negation buffs came out. The armor changes are like, I think Soldier does like 9 damage to armor or something. Only Legs was saying
Solved that, by the way. I solved that. Remind me later. I solved the armor.
You solved the armor. Please fill me
armor.
in on that, because I really want to dive deep into it before this dev blog comes out, because I want to understand exactly like every single matchup. Because there's some like Pharah and Junkrat kind of bypass it a little bit. But like, if you're playing, like, there was a Malga that got grabbed and I was on Widow. I headshot him 3 times and he did not lose his freaking armor. I'm just like, you know what, man? Like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And I've never liked this. And again, like, that's what made Overwatch so special. Is like when I was playing Ana in Overwatch 1, and if I slept a Reinhardt and I shot him and naded him at the same time, like, he was at a very, very legitimate risk of dying. Like, that was big value. I really shut him down on that play. I don't have that option anymore. Right. And he's not really having more fun either, because he's still getting drilled with everything. And there's a kaiju in front of him too. So look, I'm not a fan of this direction. I understand why they did it, in that it's like, yo, like, we have to make this more fun for the tank player who's getting hit with everything. But that's exactly my point. There's no way to get around this. There's no way to have everybody win while we're here. And so I'm not a fan. I understand why they did it. I understand why tank players might be having more fun, because again, whenever your hero soup, like, I had a lot of fun when in season 10 of Overwatch 1, when I'd been one-tricking Hanzo for 10 seasons, and they made him the best hero in the game. I loved having that impact. I had an 80% win rate, and I was averaging 32 limbs per 10. I was having a great time. But I also acknowledge that's not healthy for the game, and that's just not fun for everybody else, and why everyone else wouldn't like it. So I understand why we're in this position. Hawk and I said this was going to happen a year ago. It did. And the gameplay options still aren't there. And now there's just there are so many situations where I'm in the game as a DPS, and I'm just like, you know what? There was no real play for me to make there. And that takes away from the depth of what made Overwatch, what makes heroes like Juno so special, right? Where it's like, yo, that's Overwatch, the decision-making, the risk to reward. Like, I look at my play and say, I could have done something better. But when there's a 750 HP diva with armor, 3.5-second DM, micro missiles that outdamage most DPS in the game flying at me, and I don't even get her below 100 armor hitting all headshots on Soldier, I'm alt F4. And I did. I was ranked 20. I alt F4. I'm like, I'm not playing this. I'm going to go play.
Yeah, we all saw that clip in OWTMC, man.
Yeah, they love it when I do that stuff. They got to get their karma points. They got nothing else going on over there. But it just, that's where I wish. And I'm going to leave this with a question, SVB, because I want everyone to really go home and think about it. And this is what I want to have happen for a year. Ask yourself, is that Overwatch? Is that what made this game special? And in my opinion, it's not. If somebody does like it, that's okay. If that's all you're entitled to your opinion.
Flats, is that Overwatch?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea anymore. God, I had almost mini realization sitting here listening to this podcast. Like, I feel like we've talked so much about balance. We talked about making like game better or plays better, and it's like I don't see any of that really moving the needle very much. I think this patch was a great example of that, where a lot of, myself included, all were like, holy fuck, you're going to wreck the way this game plays, but this balance patch. And it didn't. It didn't at all. And it is weird to look at a patch that historically, if you saw pop up as a literal kaiju simulator, like dominate the game patch, genuinely put people off the game. I really don't think it did. I doubt it had that much of an impact. If anything, it actually just spread the player base back out. It took it from the DPS and support pool. There's probably less DPS than anything. It's probably more support and tank at that point. Like, the DPS players are the ones who lost the most. And it's like, you see something on paper like that and you go, oh shit, this is going to be so bad. And then it doesn't end up being bad. And it's like, wait, something like big as that, didn't even change the gameplay experience that much. It's still kind of the same. And the thing that makes me a little bit, I don't know, worried at, I guess, that is like, are we ever going to have anything that really moves the needle like that? Like, is there ever going to be something in the future that someone's going to see? Maybe not just in Overwatch land, but like beyond Overwatch land and be like, holy shit, this is big enough to make me want to play this game or to try this game at the moment. I don't know. I mean, like we had the big two, right, in Overwatch 1. And then we had PvE for like, the first half or so of Overwatch 1. And then we had post PvE, talking about all the damage. But now that all the dust is settled, and then we had BlizzCon, and now BlizzCon's gone. And then we got all the stuff that was promised at BlizzCon, and all that stuff's gone. And we know there's no BlizzCon this year, so there's nothing to really look forward to there. Are we in no man's land where there isn't anything on the horizon? There isn't anything big. There isn't something that will get people excited. Now, let's say, Sam has taken over the fucking gauntlet and has snapped us into 6v6 and everybody just has to deal with it. I think that's something that would be big enough to get people's attention again and at least try the game again. But like genuinely, just thinking for a moment, is there something other than that do you think would get like the general gaming community's attention to try Overwatch again? Because even in this current moment, I know we talked about like, tank's not good and all that stuff, but like, I feel like the average player thinks Overwatch is actually pretty good right now. Like just like gameplay wise, like not the perception of the game and the universe and all that shit. Like we're talking like the actual gameplay loop. I think most casual gamers who try the game think it's good. They think it's okay, but there's no reason for them to come try the game. There's other shiny new toys. There's other things that'll get their attention. And that's the problem Overwatch has, is the last few times where they got the gaming community's attention, the game sucked. Like just put it bluntly, like it sucked.
Would you count season 9 in that?
Yes and no. I think yes, because what happened was, and I mean, I said it on this podcast, I said that everyone's going to love it for the first month, myself included. Then after about a month, we're going to start to see the problems. And then like 2-3 months later, everyone's going to go, oh man, this is not that great. Which is kind of what happened, but it was still really good for those first couple months, and it was a good time, and everyone had fun. But just like anything in gaming, something else will get their attention, and then they will move back to that. And on top of in the in-game experience, I think Tank suffered so much. That's how now we have what we have today, which is arguably Tank is the loudest player base now, even though it's probably the smallest by far. Tank players are the
topic right now.
Yeah, they're the support players of season 1, 2, like 3, like when the support was like in beta, when it was struggling, like, and everyone's like, support needs help, support needs buff, support needs buff. That's us now. That's Tank players now. And so that's why we have this line of like jumping over, I think, to like really give it extra help. But I guess to say, yeah, the game was fun in season 9, but it also was a big risk, and they tried some new stuff, and some of it worked in my opinion, some of it didn't. And it's why still that it was their most successful season. But do we have another season 9 on the horizon, I guess is my question to you. And my answer is no. Because season 9 had all that marketing, which we were just talking about, and the PR from BlizzCon, because a lot of eyes get on BlizzCon, not just for Overwatch, but like WoW too. Because remember, WoW showed the fuck up at BlizzCon. But like when another game and another IP in the same building shows the fuck up, you also, because rising tides raises all boats, people saw the Overwatch stuff alongside it and went, wow, okay, Overwatch is actually looking pretty good too. Do we have something like that? And I think that's the thing that probably makes me the saddest, is I don't really see it. And if anything, that would make me want to try a different format just to get people's attention again, because
I would say
I think the game's
thing
good.
was a format change in a way. Like I would consider the new comp system in a way like a format change, a different type, sure, but like it was still a format change. So I think you're a little bit on the money. I think that there is a way for that to happen, and that I'm not just saying that for the sake of like, oh, go back to 6v6, like going from 6v6 to 5v5 caused that too, right? So I think anytime a big format change, that might be one of those things. Sorry to cut you off. You can go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, you kind of get what I'm getting at here, is like Overwatch is an 8-year-old game now?
It will be.
It's an 8-year-old game. Like, who do we look at? League? Like, what was League like in year 8? What was keeping League like afloat 8 years in? I would argue it was probably like Worlds was a big thing. And then they had a resurgence again. How old is League now? Like, how old is that game actually? I don't know off the top of my head.
It's like
at
12,
least 12 years old. It's
something like
it's
that.
old.
I wanna.
It's
I'll double check
definitely
while
over
you finish
10.
your point.
So what was it? Year 10 is when they had their Netflix show. Is it like year 10? So like whatever was doing
So
like 2 years.
2009, October 2009 is League of Legends. So it's 25 years.
No,
15,
not
sorry,
25.
math.
Yeah,
15.
15.
15. Sorry, math bad. 15.
So yeah, I guess was League really struggling around the time we're at right now? Like, what gets people's attention? What gets your, like what moves the needle enough? Because as much as we want to sit here and we want to talk balance and we want to talk things going through, especially as streamers and creators, like we need the casual gamer as much as the casual gamer needs us in a lot of ways. Like, we're the thing that gets them to have exciting new things kind of moving, and like they'll enjoy it because we have a pretty good idea on how to articulate like what's good and what's bad. And also it's a smaller, it's more like instead of having 1,000 voices in the room, you have one person who speaks for that group of people. Not everyone's going to agree with them, of course, but like it's much easier to contextualize feedback that way. But unless we have something that gets their attention and gets them to come back and gets them to play, doesn't matter how good you make the game. Doesn't matter how much balance you throw in. Doesn't matter how many small tweaks to Reinhardt's shield you make. It's, once that guy who's been playing Rein for 2 straight years gets CC'd into a corner by Orisa for the 9,000th time, and they go, I can't do it anymore, and they finally put the game down, you ain't getting them to pick it back up until something major comes back. Yeah. And even a Juno launch isn't big enough because one, that might not even be their role. And two, even if it is their role, it has to be more than that. And I hope that the team knows that. I bet they do, but like, how do you answer that question? Because I'm not telling you Overwatch 3 is the answer. Don't you fucking dare.
Go back. Don't go forward. And listen, I've been one of the biggest voices on 6v6. I don't think they should just outright do it. I think they should do some kind of big marketing pull, get rid of the Overwatch 2 branding. And if they're going to do it, it needs to be something like that, because people get mad at me when I say that, but it's like, look, the die's been cast a little bit on this one. I'm willing to wait and see and let it play out. I feel like I've given it a fair chance to try to let them address some of those pain points, but Flats, you couldn't be more right there about, it takes something big like that to get a lot of people back. And that's, in my opinion, like format changes, comp system upgrades, like would you say systematic changes? Is that the right word, guys? Systematic changes to the game? Is that on?
I would say more fundamental.
Systemic. Systematic would be consistent. Systemic would be fundamental.
Got it.
See, math bad, English I could do.
Yeah.
Now, on your question, I want to state the obvious because I think it has to be stated. Now, like to contextualize before I state the obvious, I think anytime you bring people in, they have to be satisfied. Like what Flats you're talking about there is like a really key point about like we're not even bringing people in. We're just like, as you said, the analogy of the shower, or you want to use sands, grab a bunch of sand in the desert, and then you're trying to hold on and just slip in slowly. Like that mentality will always suffer, right? Because you're not bringing people in the first place. But when you do bring them in, you need to keep them happy, and you need to keep. That's where you need systematic changes to keep bringing them back over and over. That's what you saw with like I think the best example always is the heyday of Apex, how it went from dead to suddenly up, because like changes, fun stuff. Like you need that. But to state the obvious of what would bring people in, I would like to refer to Samito's favorite Google Trends. While you were talking, Flats, I did some quick research because you mentioned League of Legends, and I agree. I think if we're going to talk about how do we keep longevity, we have to compare it to the leagues, the Counter-Strikes, the Dotas. Those are the only games. Like Valorant, Apex, we can't compare to them because they're just so much newer. Fortnite as well. It's just like it's not. They haven't reached the same place that we have. We have to look at who's gone and done it. Who's gone beyond that.
Minecraft, another great example too.
Minecraft, yeah. Although again, these games like the truth is they just have always been more popular than Overwatch. Apart from like the peak 2016 Overwatch, these games have like the benefit they have a higher base point, right? People always come and go. People like whatever game they like, people come and go. They go in and out, and they just have a higher entry point. But I point you to October 2021, the League of Legends, like September 2021, League of Legends in terms of Google Trend data is at 24. So that means of the highest 100 in
is that
September,
worldwide or is that
worldwide. September 2021, it is at 24% of its, 24 out of the 100 peak. And November 2021, it goes to 40, nearly doubles. Do you guys want to guess what happened in November 2021?
Worlds?
Arcane.
Arcane.
Oh, it is Arcane.
Yeah.
Nearly
and you saw the
doubled.
same thing. You
To
saw
go
the
from
same
20
thing
Yeah,
with
go ahead,
Witcher
Sam.
and Cyberpunk. You saw the same thing happen with both of those shows, Witcher and Cyberpunk. I'd
go
wager that
from-
you saw the same thing.
Yeah, to
Sorry.
go from 24 to 4, nearly double the interest of a game in that short space of a time.
That's crazy.
We need a fucking Netflix show. We need where is the Netflix show?
SCB. No, you don't get to say that. Have you seen Dota Dragon's Blood yet on Netflix?
Ah, bro, I need
you
to-
rat. You rat.
I
I've been
need to
telling
do-
you to watch it. Dude.
I don't have a Netflix account anymore. I need to go fucking find internet ways. I don't own a Netflix.
I think the thing is
subscription
that like we're all like balance purists, you know?
yeah,
like,
but this is the thing. Flats mentioned it at the start. Like the thing that every single person got into Overwatch for was the cool lore, the cool characters. I am tired of saying it. Flats knows that I've said this to the face of the developers in, important context with important people. I've been like, guys, where's the fucking Netflix show? I don't know how many times you gotta say it, how many different ways you gotta
guys,
say it.
Sam, Flats,
we
you guys
need the
wanna do a
Netflix
puppet show? We could do a puppet show.
Yeah, we'll do a
Why don't we
puppet
do that?
show. We'll be on PBS. SVB, you can narrate.
Yeah, let's do it.
I like that. I
Totally,
like
yeah.
We can do it. We can do it.
You know what's crazy though? You know what's crazy? Because like we actually get some pretty sick animations for the Corpa shit. And I tweeted
It's
about
all
this as well.
corporate
Like,
shit now. It's nothing
like
other than the corporate shit. It's so sad.
it's so
What do you
sad.
mean? What do you mean?
The,
What do you
the,
mean? What
the
do you mean?
Porsche, the Porsche,
Le Seraphim,
ad-
Porsche.
got such a got such
the
a sick
Transformers trailer.
yeah, and the
Transformers.
trailer, they get such sick animation. The
last one was
Porsche
Sojourn.
and the Transformers things are better than the fucking animated
Listen.
series they released. That shit was ass. But the 2-minute trailers they released are fire.
Listen,
Where
guys,
are they?
no K-pop slander allowed on this freaking podcast.
No, the
okay?
K-pop one was
K-pop
awesome. It was so
That was
good.
fire.
Listen, Sam,
It was
listen, Sam, I
actually
gotta see-
insanely good, but they put all the resources into corporate shit. Do fucking both. Don't take one to do the other. We don't mind
Yeah.
paying for the collabs. The collabs are awesome. Just don't take the other shit away. It's not that fucking hard. Fuck, dude.
Bro, Sam gets his
It's-
girly pass, and now has to flaunt it now.
I have a hey, yeah. I'm just saying, I have the girly pass, and y'all don't. So take a
Yeah,
seat,
my
fellas.
bad,
Take a
man.
seat.
All right,
Shout
all
out
right,
to
I'll
the
leave-
girlies out there.
I'll leave the K-pop to Sam, but yeah, I mean, just to finish that point, the 24, by the way, was the lowest League of Legends ever reached, like post-launch. The 24
Wow.
was like the
Really?
lowest it ever got, and the 40 went up. So imagine going from your lowest point to like fucking nearly doubling because you released a Netflix show that everybody. It has to be good, by the way. I will caveat that like
Yeah.
Arcane is really good. It's a really quality TV show. Like even if you never saw the played the game, it's really good. And I believe Overwatch can do it because Overwatch's lore is better than the League of Legends lore by like orders of magnitude. Like the League of Legends lore is ass. If you ever played, I have played the game. The characters are so fucking cringe, bro. They're so fucking cringe. But in the show, they look awesome. In Overwatch, the characters are already cool. Just make a show where they're also cool. It's really
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah.
Anyways,
There's no,
we were
like,
talking about
magic
tank
pill.
shit.
Hang
There's
on,
no magic
question.
pill though. That's the thing. Is like we're all like balance purists, but like I think like you said, it's like you have to create a good game with good design, good return on investment. Like there's a lot of things that we could extrapolate from there, right? Like rewarding people for picking characters and learning and skillful and format. And there's like it's not that that's a moot point. It's a very important part of like what keeps people playing the game. But what gets people into the game is not necessarily the season 11 patch notes where they're making characters more dynamic. Like that stuff is good. I love it. I love but like that's not going to get new people into the game. And the stuff that Flats has said and the stuff that
How you
Sabino has
maintain
said is,
them.
like, right, it's how
How
you
you
maintain them.
maintain
And I hate to say this game. But I will bring it up one more time. The Age of Empires 2, great example of like an
Good
actually
game.
phenomenal. It's a great game, and it was remarkably balanced for a long time. But it was kind of a dead game until they did the HD and they were releasing the new civilizations or whatever. Like people just weren't like that interested in it. And then they released like these new civs. They have like Microsoft buys in. They do like a lot of this promotional stuff. And over COVID, that game blew up again. Right? I don't know how it's doing right now anymore, but like. It's like you can have like an actual really balanced game, but like nobody plays it anymore, you know? And it's like, not nobody, but in relevance to a AAA studio, to the metric that game has to, like in a game like Overwatch has to be aiming, like you need to do so much more. but like that's not the design team necessarily. That's not the balance team. They can't. There has to be the marketing. It has to be some sort of a vision, like Flats was saying. You can't miss these big pain points of like, okay, this is a huge promotional opportunity. Why are we wasting on this? There has to be some sort of a vision for it. And it feels like ever since PvE was canceled, the game is just in an infinite battle pass loop with no real goal of like, where are we going, right? Like, what's the purpose? We have all these, it's like, you know what it is? It's like having a garage full of like S tier tools and not building anything. You have like all these tools, these crazy characters, these crazy personalities, this crazy voice acting, these crazy animations, and they're just not using it, right? And it's like, I don't know anything about that, so I'm not going to say anything, but I will say that it does feel a lot like that sometimes. And I think that's part of the reason why the PR for Overwatch has been so slow to recover, because we can all agree that the PR for Overwatch is just kind of totally unfair at this point, right? But it feels like it's still in the dirt because it's like there's some psychological component where like people, they don't know. There's not been a lot of cool or interesting, exciting news, despite the game being like relatively fine. Like even this recent patch, right? I don't like this recent patch, but the game still functions. It's still fun, you know. But people don't know that. It's because the PR is just like they dig themselves a hole. Like they only get negative press, you know. And some of that's not just, but some of that's hey, that's your job. That's your job. So I feel for the development team, you know, because it's like all these interesting things and nobody even knows.
I'm gonna make my big call.
Loop.
I'm going to make my big call. Y'all ready for this?
All right.
Overwatch will see the biggest boom that it's seen since launch if they announce they're going back to 6v6.
Oh, God,
I'm telling you right now.
Sam, come on.
I'm telling you they will. I'm telling you they will. It's like, it's not even like a big call. It's just obvious.
No shit, dude.
Yeah,
because it's nostalgia watch at that point. Like it's like Fortnite when it went back to its beginning roots. Like if they said tomorrow we're dropping Overwatch Classic, baby, everyone be like, woo! Come fucking running in from every corner of the internet. It would be 10 times bigger than the game ever was. But they can't do that though. You can't do that.
They will come back, but whether Sam is right or not will depend on whether they stay. That's the difference. They'll come back for the nostalgia watch, but if they stay, it'll prove your point, Sam.
Well, the gameplay loop has more options, so people like games with more depth. And a funny story, I don't know if I've told you this. I'll save it. I'll save it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, anyways, I still have the title card that says discussing tank buffs, and we didn't do that for like an hour. So let me go back. Because this all started with Flats' discussion about
3 people in this call for that.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I'm sure. I mean, people were like, "I just like to hear you guys yap. When's the next podcast? When's the next podcast?" So like, you got to hear, guys. You got to hear us yap for anything that's not about gameplay. So we were talking. Flats was asking like, "Will anything move the needle?" But Spilo, I'll take it to you. The tank buffs. Sam was saying, you know, he's expressed his various grievances with it. You are, you know, often on the other side of the pond. So how do you feel about the tank buffs?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on the other side of the pond, but we're still looking at me like, yo, this pond sucks.
Yo, this pond is an ass.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with Flats, though, where it's like, it's not like, it's like, it's really easy to be like, oh, this is the worst patch ever. And I gave it like a D- grade in terms of the actual changes themselves, but it didn't really change things that much. And I think that like the gameplay loop's still relatively the same. I think, like as I said before, it's just the spirit of the change that like really bothered me. And I think the thing is like, even if it doesn't change things right now, I hope that this is not how they see D.Va, right? Like if we see over the next year, if this is how they change D.Va here, the D.Va will never be better. D.Va will remain in a bad state. So for me, it was not so much that this next season is going to feel trash. It's more like, oh no, this is concerning about tank moving forward. I felt like we don't really have a vision. And I think that was some of the feedback. The most important feedback I give the developers is like, we need your, what is your tank vision? What is your tank vision? What is the purpose of tank? How are you making a solo tank viable? Are we going full tanky, super overtuned over? Then fine. Then we need to introduce pain point address, and then we need to address skillful counterplay, right? Like I actually think there's a world where you could have an unbalanced role in 5v5 where tanks, but that you made it like more skillful. And that people will just not care that much, like 95% of it. But you need to address those pain points, right? Is that a technically balanced game? No. Will it ever be as balanced as 6v6? No. Will it ever be as fun as 6v6? I don't know. Maybe not. But it would be better. But what is the vision? What is the vision with tank in 5v5? And we still don't know what that is. And looking at these patch changes, there's no consistency of vision whatsoever. It's just raw buffs. And that's what ticked me off. It was not that I necessarily disagreed with the changes. Obviously, that was part of it. It was not necessarily that Tank didn't need changes. Obviously, they did. But we don't know what the end goal for Tank and Solo Tank 5v5 format is. And as long as that's the case, you're creating this environment. It's like a hot weather and water. You're creating mold. You're creating this environment where discontent, conspiracy theories, right, Sam? The YouTube comments, man, people are cooked out, the developers. There's some conspiracy theories, and people like, but that you create that environment because there's no clarity of communication about like what's the end goal with 5v5. Like, what do we want from the Solo Tank experience? And everyone has their different ideas. They don't have to align with mine or Sam's or Flats or anybody else, but we have to know. And that's especially frustrating for me because I really try to be fair with my feedback and really try to, I will let them know if I disagree with vision-wise, right? Like with the pickable passive thing. But it's hard for me to give good feedback when I don't know what are we aiming for, because I might just be wasting hot air, because I don't really know what I'm critiquing here. Like maybe their idea is that they want tanks to be these mega overtuned things. That that's the only way they're going to get people to play the tank role in a first-person shooter. Okay, then we need to start talking about like how everybody needs counterplay. That's not Fortify or 3.5 second matrix. I could tailor my feedback. Maybe that they're more open to the idea of shrinking hitboxes and doing the whole Avril, more DPS like tanks. Like maybe that would be, because I think that's something that we could do at least to an extent. Like I think that. But is that even worth discussing? Like, is that even worth criticizing? Is that like off the table right now? Like nobody knows, right? And I think that like even when I pushed Alec with it a little bit, he talked about the upcoming tank patch. But I honestly just don't feel like, that's on me. I think I needed to push that one a little bit more in the interview. But I don't feel like we really got a clear answer on like what the end goal is here. And I think that's my biggest criticism. It's not that these guys are incompetent. Obviously they're not. It's not that all these changes were bad. No, they weren't obviously not. It's just that I think for people like Sam and Flats, myself, who constantly talk about like the design and the balance of the game, we don't know what the end goal is. Like I feel like I have a better understanding of where support's going right now from that interview than I do with Tank. And even stuff like he talked about like with Alec, the first two things that he brought up when we were talking about like, oh, we're going to try and buff Tank in like more skillful ways. He talks about the alternate fire with Winston. He talked about the charge damage. And I'm like, hey, that sounds promising. It's buffs for tanks, but it's like more skillful things. But then it's like, I felt like it was like a little bit of frankly, it was like kind of like a used car salesman thing. Honestly, like not that was intentional, but those were the peaks of the entire patch. And that's all that was leaked. And then all of a sudden I didn't know Matrix was going to get buffed like that. Oh, I didn't know Fortify was going to get buffed like that. Oh, 75 armor from Ramadra. Oh gosh, like we're like, I don't know. And the Zarya changes, it's just like,
what was the armor math you mentioned earlier? Do you want me to bring that back up to you?
Oh, yeah, really quick here. The thing they changed the armor, right? So it's a 10 damage reduction. But here's the solution, okay? I sat in there with Microsoft Paint for like 30 minutes, okay? Reduce it back to 5. And then make how there's a maximum armor damage threshold? It's 50%, right? That's the most armor that will reduce any instance of damage is 50%. They need to introduce a minimum threshold that at minimum armor reduces 20% damage. So Far Rocket goes from 120 to 96, right? Then you actually have, what you do is you have a much more compressed range of damage reduction that's much more consistent. So yes, armor will still be more functional versus the tank busters, which is what they intended. They said it in the patch notes, right? But it doesn't introduce these horrific side benefits of like Genji Soldier, Lucio Echo that do negative damage versus tanks right now because they actually take it from 10 to 5 again. That was the problem, is the unintended changes of the armor. They just need to go back to 5 and have a minimum threshold of 20 so the armor still functions versus burst damage, but it's a little bit less effective and it doesn't screw over the middleman. But yeah, I'm sorry, that's my rant. What's the vision? What's the vision with tank? Like I don't have to agree with it. But we got to know as a community. We have to know. What's the vision?
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to go on this point, so I'm gonna take it to Flats first because I've got like another long train. I'm firing from the platform like it's fucking Waterloo. But Flats, have you got something you want to add on this domain?
The armor one is super interesting. That's actually a really nice idea. I kind of like that. I definitely like. I'm much better though at like playing and like feeling how like stuff feels at that point, as opposed to like thinking about it in terms of armor specifically. Because armor's sometimes and some characters benefit a lot more than others and all that shit. But yeah, I mean, I know that this is okay. So like, I made a video basically saying I was wrong about the patch because I thought like this patch is gonna be a meltdown. And part of what I said though was even though this made tank a lot better, it doesn't move the needle enough for me to actually want to play the game. And that's kind of like my almost small call out of like, hey, this is the strongest it's probably going to be, and it's still not that fun. And I went into the reasons why I think it was that fun. But at least to me personally, I'm trying to figure out, is it me? Am I just not enjoying the game as much anymore? Am I getting older? Am I just, like naturally over time, sometimes your interests start to fade or they change or whatever it might be. But I also don't feel like it's me alone that has that feeling. I've noticed so many others. It's the first time in the last few months I've watched, like, everybody knows like me and Emong are pretty close, and it's like that guy could stream every day, 10 hours a day playing ranked games. And it's like the first time I've started to see him like not do that. Like he plays more off role now, and we just fuck around, dick around, do other stuff. I've got him to actually come play variety and do other stuff like that. And so the thing that makes me most worried about it is even though the patch, I was wrong about it and it was actually not bad and it was, if anything, made the experience much better, why am I not having more fun? Or sorry, why am I only having a marginal amount of fun for what I would think would make it really good? So it's me kind of having the internal battle of, am I just jaded and this is like, and it's that magic's never going to come back? Or has the magic really been kind of snatched out of it? And it's not me, it's an actual game issue. And normally I was actually starting to default towards it's me, and I just need to learn that. But now that I've seen so many others that I know have had stronger mentals than me or have had more success or more of a track record to not be swayed by patches or something like that, also feel the same, I'm starting to be like, nah, I'm not crazy. Something's up. So
Can I interject really quick? Okay, so two things. Is it like preventing burnout or like whatever? I mean, I had a whole video on this. People did not like this video. I got a lot of dislikes on that video.
Someone told me to watch it, but I didn't want to just like watch it without asking you. So like,
it's fine. It's fine. I really don't care. My whole thought process is how much of like progression, like burnout, is avoided by new experiences, which we've beaten on that one all this entire podcast, right?
Mhm.
And a sense of like progression, whether it's like as a skill, like I am rewarded for the time that I put in, or like the stupid like unethical MMO mobile game thing that you're talking about earlier, where like every game there's a progression, like bing 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 bing, look at this, you're doing that, like how much of that is like maybe Overwatch is not feeling like we're going anywhere, and or there's not as many new experiences. I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where it's like how much of this is like a balance or like the quality of the game right now versus just like it's just not hitting the dopamine markers for me right now. Like I don't know. I think that's like a really, really uncomfortable box to unpack. And I also think that like the nature of Overwatch as well is that like there's always going to be fewer novel things for like old seniors like us three, right? So it's like we have like much higher standards, but like I don't know. I agree with you. It's tricky. It's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we do have to acknowledge some extent that like, and I think you're right, Flash. Always try and remind and check yourselves. Like, is it me? Because as I said, I barely play Overwatch anymore, and like, I haven't gotten the dopamine for quite a while. But I think at some point I'm just like, I think that's just how it goes when you've been playing a game for 8 years, man. Like, we've been on this train for a while. I mean, I am open to the idea that it's the game. Is it me or is it or the kids are wrong? The game is wrong. I think though, like, we've kind of as well for us, we've kind of been and done a lot of like everything there is to do in the game. Like, do we have any reason to grind rank? Like, I don't care about reaching champion. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care about reaching a certain rank. I feel like I know everything I've ever wanted to know about the game. Like, I could be 20 times more knowledgeable, but do I care? No, like
is this just the break point now where we're at? Like right now, I'm actually having a lot of fun with Overwatch because I play Overwatch probably 10 hours a week, almost all of it on stream, and that's even pushing it, right? There's some weeks where I play a lot fewer than that, but I'm like really happy with like talking about it, and making content about it, and coaching about it, and coming up with new ideas. Like I'm really happy with the game in that point. But a lot of these guys that like that prioritize, like they mostly just play the game, like I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm honestly like, I really don't know. Is it just a coincidence that a lot of people are kind of unhappy at the same time and like kind of burned out? But also, I feel like from an outside perspective, like that's bound to happen with some of these Overwatch only streamers, right? Like at some point, like surely, I don't know what to compare it to. I don't know other streamers in other games. Do they get burned out after streaming the same game for 5 years? Is it just a coincidence that it's now? Is it a coincidence because there hasn't been anything as interesting? Like, that's such a hard question to answer.
I think they
I
do.
think it's
I think
pretty
I see. I
simple.
see. I mean, I know where Sam's going, but
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of other game creators also go through these kind of malaise, right? Like I'm not saying that there's no accountability for Watch, because as we've clearly gone through in this podcast, there's a lot of problems that we identify. But I also don't want to like skew our POV too much as like the POV,
Right.
because we are a subset of
Well,
the
that was my
player.
main point in the video. Is like I don't like it when content creators.
To be honest,
It's the
Overwatch
trickle-down
will
effect.
never
It's
be
like you
good.
have to be
VC
really careful
Microsoft
because like
doesn't
you
really
can't.
care that much about
one of the points of the
Overwatch
video is like I
compared to
literally had
other
people
Microsoft
messaging me
hits,
being like,
compared to
"Yo,
other
Spell, I'm
games
totally
like
burned out.
COD
Everyone's super
games. You
negative
can
about the
just
game." I'm like,
see how
stop
much of the
watching
care and how
Overwatch
much
content. If
more
you
money
like
it
the game,
makes.
just play it. You know. But yeah, it's like I don't know. Sorry, I'm interjecting again. Go ahead.
No. I mean, that's basically all I was gonna say. I'm not averse to the problems
I
being,
forgot
maybe
I
it's the
didn't have
format.
alerts
maybe
off.
Sam will say, the skill expression
Sorry.
isn't there, the skill
We
ceiling
can
isn't
talk about that
there.
later,
It's like
but
not
I typically
rewarded.
focus on the
You just
podcast
have
when
half
we're
the
on it.
options.
Sorry.
That's all it is.
And I'm open to all of those ideas, but I do want us to put out there that it's not just because we feel a thing.
Yeah, of
And
course, absolutely. Come
That
to your
does
own
not mean that it
conclusions,
is.
absolutely.
Yeah, it does not mean that it's necessarily the game's fault, because like there must be some people who are still satisfied, and there must be other games where people play 10 years and they're still satisfied. But it's also not abnormal to play for this long and be like, it's just I've just done the same thing for way too long. And especially when it's your job, especially when you're bound to playing it and not given so much room to just take a break, go play something else, reinvigorate your desire for the game. Go ahead,
Everything
Sam.
has ups and downs. Absolutely true. Everything has ups and downs. 100%.
So
There
yeah,
just isn't any magic pill, There isn't like any magic pill, but like I definitely think like game design, game format, 5v5, 6v6, that all definitely exacerbates the issue. But I think like I want to be very careful about like creating like this magic pill. Like if we just do this, if we just did that, then everything's going to be better, because that's never the case with anything, So
and
I think that those questions have to be answered by the Overwatch release team and the marketing team, the development team, and then as streamers as well. Like, what kind of, if we're going to be doing nothing but playing Overwatch all day long, like what kind of expectations are we putting on this team? I don't know.
And I do think the negativity around in social media, as you alluded to, Spilo, is like, I think it plays a factor in everybody's subconscious as well. Like, again, none of this is to say that I'm defending Overwatch, and this is another facet of it, is the fucking shill thing is exhausting as well for creators.
It's always black and white. There's no sort of nuance.
No middle.
You can't ever. No, you cannot just like, and this is like a wider thing in the internet, right? Like I saw a clip of Ninja complaining that like he's like, what happened to streaming, man? What happened to content creator where you just used to share funny clips of entertaining stuff happening in a game, and now the big streamers, all they do is fucking create drama and like weigh in on all kinds of bullshit. So it's like the climate is different of just gaming and content creation around gaming, but this shill stuff is exhausting, because it's like anytime you aren't hyper negative about Overwatch, you're just like shill, and it's just like it's draining, because how are you supposed to enjoy, as a content creator, how are you supposed to enjoy the game when anytime you're like having fun, people are like, you're fucking bought and you're paid for? And then of course that's going to make you more negative, not only because of a psychological reason, but also because like it fucking sells. We saw with that tweet that Sam was alluding to at the start, just make shit up that's like bad about Overwatch and get like free farm of internet points, right? Like just make up a fake thing, 16,000 likes in like a few hours, whatever, right? So it creates an environment where I definitely think that, and I've seen this trend is something that I've noticed and something that I'm really disheartened by. Flats, I think you'll really feel me on this one. I remember when there was a time when we discussed like how Overwatch content is just kicking ass of like other game content, like the creativity, the fucking awesome formats that Overwatch creators used to come out with. Just there was no like comparable thing in like Valorant. I saw so many like Valorant just copied the videos that Overwatch formats
100%.
had been made. They just straight up jacked them straight up. We don't do that
any
anymore.
serious design discussions
We don't do
on other games? Like
I don't know.
like
I don't know if they have a.
Sam does. I don't
I don't know if they have a. I don't know if they have a group up podcast. They presumably do, but what the point is
They're
that
not beating us.
even in Overwatch,
Yeah.
we don't do that anymore. Like I swear, every other Overwatch video is like just fucking hating on the game, or it's just like the same old two formats that we've already been and done. Like just people rehashing the same thing over. Like there's not even any creativity in the Overwatch content scene anymore.
And, I
It's
mean,
just like
that's such a weird one. I hope you don't mind me cutting in on that.
Go ahead.
I kind of identified this years ago. Like years ago, I identified that there was something was up with how people were like viewing games and stuff like that. Because I had multiple things that were doing super well. I had at the time, I did this play of the game series with Emong, where we would go through play of the games and like laugh at them or rate them or talk about whatever. And I had all these ideas that I was working on, and then I had my golden goose at the time spectating, right? Which was fucking popping. But then I noticed, even all the way back then, that my actual gaming content didn't do as well. And that always made me sad because like I enjoyed being a very good player. But then as time went on, I realized nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares, like at all. And if there was a pro player streamer, like an actual pro player streamer, like that streamed all the time, we're talking super, if he actually streamed all the time while in Overwatch League and was on the hardcore content grind, because like, no offense to super, but like he does not grind content like other people do. Like he goes on, he streams, has a good time, and then Steph grabs a VOD and goes through and edits it up, and boom, nice 200K video, easy. But if there was someone in Overwatch who was like an Imperial Hal, let's say, of like Apex, right? Who's like very much on the pro grind and the content grind, they would probably be number one, and they wouldn't even be close. And so I had the realization that I'm probably not a pro player. I do not want to put in the hours, and I just don't care enough. So over time, I guess XQC is a good example. XQC was that guy for Overwatch. And I kind of realized I don't really have it in me at 25, 26, 27 years old at the time. And I was like, this isn't really worth it for me, which is why I don't give a shit like half the time. Like I'm kind of washed as fuck compared to what I used to be, but I can still get top 100 every season. That's not that hard. Like it's really not difficult. But I noticed when I was doing that my content that I was proud of didn't do as hot. And the content that like I was kind of fucking with, like just talking content or react content, would do super, super well. And so I started talking about things that actually interest me, or talking about things that like actually I thought were good, and people loved it, and it went even better. And so where I think we are in Overwatch is the reason you don't see a lot of that stuff anymore is because gameplay Overwatch content is kind of low-key dead. People don't care. And it's why the Twitch numbers look so bad unless there's drops. And then the casuals will show up in droves and come get their drops. It's why every streamer basically has changed their streaming schedule around drops. Me and Emong do it. He streams in the morning. I stream at night until 6 a.m. and then hand it off to him in the morning because we sit there and we farm drops all day long. And then after that, we know we can chill. But on the YouTube side, the thing that does the best is talking about the game. And then even better is if you're negatively talking about the game. Yeah. And if you really wanted to sit there and farm as much money as possible, you just pump shit out all day long. And there are creators who have done that. Although that never felt right to me. Huh?
I have a Discord channel where people will drop like React content, like educational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it is hilarious how these like 25 subscriber Andys will just upload Red Arrow Overwatch Suck title. And they just like get like 10,000, 15,000 views.
Yep.
The funny thing though, is that those channels rarely get subscribers.
Yep.
Because people will click the video, but they don't care about what the person's saying. And the best part about it is I have yet to find one of those videos that has a unique taker point. They're all rehashing the same crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's community
100%.
Cannibalization. That's where we're at right now.
We don't think there's some truth to those videos. If there's this now, the React content in general, I've seen some of them. Most of them are about the format. I think there's a lot of accurate points that are being made in those videos. To be fair, in general, I think gameplay.
They're rehashing your points.
Yeah, well, because they're right, and we're gonna.
Yeah, that's not what he means, though.
Like fine wine.
He means like there's nothing new.
There's nothing
you know what I
new.
mean?
That's fair. That's fair.
It's just like re-talking.
Right. You could agree with the concept, but it's like, shut up. We already have plenty of mouthpieces saying the exact same thing and saying it better than you. If you don't have anything new to the table, then or doing it better, then to me the point is that it only goes so far, right? Like how many
That's
more
fair.
times can you make the same video? There has to be some sort of evolution. The problem is I'm guilty of this as well. I try to be as balanced as I can, but I definitely like, if I make a big red, this patch sucks, that's gonna do well,
Yeah.
right? Problem is it's cannibalization. I'm chewing my own arm off. At some point, I'm not saying that. Like, see, the problem is again, we're getting to what SVB's talked
It
about.
depends on the
But there's an
content.
opposite side of that.
I'm either a shill
Yeah, there it is.
right, but right. So the thing is I think that there's a point where like you absolutely should provide real and criticisms and get the bag. Like provide the criticisms, be fair, but you have to like at some point it's repetitive. You can't you have to like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Like if at some point, like, are people going to click on these videos forever? Like, I think you get really stale as a creator at some point if that's all you do. You have to like introduce some new line of thought or something. Like I don't know.
But what is
I'm
their
trying to
gameplay?
think
Sorry.
about. No, you're good. Go ahead. 'Cause
I
have
was
a
just gonna say,
question.
what is their gameplay side that like actually you could do tomorrow? Like I think Jay low key had the last hit of doing his like 10v1 like Giga 1 hero and like bringing people in and then like different cooldowns and stuff like that. Like I think that was in the current state of where we are in Overwatch, potentially the last like great idea anyone could come up with and do. Now if Workshop was more maintained, now follow me this, if they had just released all the PvE assets into Workshop and said, we're not making it anymore, but here's everything we made, have fun, there's probably a whole new reality you could make full of content over there. But in this current day game, also, are we still here? I feel like half the call is lagged. Mike?
Chat because I think the Discord is having a absolute
Discord is just me.
Discord
Okay.
is red bars. Let me change the server, guys. Let me see if this helps.
We're back.
Oh, we're good.
We're
There we
back.
go. So I
Yeah.
changed the server because I think whatever Discord's auto find of server was just absolutely losing its mind. So we're
Flats,
on
we
US
heard
East
you
now.
when you up to like drop the assets in Workshop.
Okay,
Yeah,
so basically, Workshop's criminally underused. Like, they
Yeah.
have all these PvE assets, I'm sure, that are made. Just drop them all in the Workshop and let them go crazy. That's a whole new avenue of things that people could explore. But I think Spot was 100% right. But, like, what in the game is there? Like, I think
Yeah.
for a while, the last couple things were, like, pro play, right? Like, you had, like, the Overwatch League style, like, replay viewer, like, looking at what, like, the best players had. God, I'm still sad that we lost the Twitch version in Season 2 where you could, like, watch every player's POV. That was such a fucking tragedy. But that was probably one of the last big ones. And then like some people had series. Like I had a series with Emong where we were playing Mystery Heroes and we would try to like in one session get as many ultimates on Mystery Heroes as we could, or get all the ults and then like turn that into a video of like us racing against each other trying to get all the ults in Mystery Heroes, because like getting ults in Mystery Heroes is a little bit difficult. And people enjoyed it because it was a new twist on playing the game. There was a little challenge behind it. There was a little something. But like that is like us like kind of scraping it at this point. I think part of it is when you get an 8-year-old game that doesn't really get new groundbreaking pieces of content. That's kind of just what happens.
Well,
and everyone needs a paycheck that does content, right? Like you gotta make it somehow. And you can definitely burn that wick a little too fast if you keep rubbing at it quickly. You know what I mean? Like you keep like, going really fast on like the whole, we gotta like really like Overwatch is really bad and really like whatever. Like, yeah, people will agree with you, but then very quickly you probably just don't have anything new to say, and then people get tired of it. And so you're wrong. You're not wrong. But is there even an answer?
I think I have a theory, but I want to let Sam go first.
So I don't even know if that's just Overwatch, guys. You saw this trend in a lot of different games too. Minecraft, for example, is a big example where in like 2016, 2017, 2018, really, before they did the big combat changes, like you saw like all like videos on big servers. But post like 2019, it right when Minecraft actually had its big boom, you saw everybody switch to like Minecraft butt channels, or like they do Minecraft butt and then like some narrative that they would record like a bunch of my buddies like from back in the day did it, and they've done really, really well for themselves. Shout out to those guys. I don't know if that's just an Overwatch thing. I think React content in general and content going away and or spectating stuff. I mean, I saw Tim doing it in Warzone too. Warzone 2 at TOO. Well, I guess they did it in Warzone 2 as well. I wonder how much of that is in general, like just React and content being on the up and gameplay stuff and raw VOD
Podcast
footage
stuff.
going down.
The irony. Podcast
So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do have a theory because I kind of realized this as you were talking, which is that like this is like a fundamental truth of games that I sometimes forget, and I think would be relevant to bring up, which is that the life cycle of anyone playing the game is that they start off playing the game and eventually they just start watching the game. Like that's the shift that occurs.
That's true.
You start when you're like when Overwatch launches or when Valorant launches, everyone wants to play the game. Like, oh shit, I want to show me fun stuff happening in the game. Oh, this crazy thing happened. Educational stuff is always more popping than right because people want to learn the game. Probably this will happen with Marvel Rivals. Like probably for the first little bit of time, we're going to see lots of educational content. Lots of like, did you know you could do this cool shit on Marvel Rivals? You'll see some fun formats, whatever. But at a certain point, what ends up happening is people just, life gets in the way. Partly your player base grows older. So the people who had loads of time in college, whatever, they start going to work. They have jobs. They have kids. Also, just people get bored. People like, I can't, again, as we said, we're like, man, 8 years of Overwatch, I'm tired. People like 3 years of, Valorant, I'm tired. So you stop, like, you don't care about watching the gameplay anymore so much because you're like, whatever, man, I've seen there, been done that. But listening to discussions is interesting. It's interesting to hear people break down the game that you once loved or still are interested in, to be like, oh yeah, they're doing this now. It's like you keep up to date, right? I think, again, the kind of meta to be talking about this on this podcast, I think one of the reasons people really like this podcast is because they get to hear us kind of touch base on the state of the game and how we feel, but they don't have to play with the game. They have to engage with the game. They just kind of tune in. They hear what we're saying. They hear our thoughts. They hear our analysis. And that's fun. That's engaging.
That's like me with anime, dude. I don't even read the Boruto manga. I just watch like Naruto Explained or like Anime Balls Deeper into those channels all day, and I just let it run.
Spoilers. No spoilers. How many of you guys have like not binge watched, but watched like a lot of Elden Ring DLC discussion around the controversy around that game?
I'm trying. I want to play it. I have not gotten anywhere near it.
All right. So I'm in the minority here. So I've played through it, and I'm not like a crazy Elden Ring guy, but I played through the base game, new game plus DLC. And I don't think I have watched any gameplay at all for that game. But I was very curious upon finishing the DLC to see other people's opinions, criticisms, and compliments of the game. And the balance state, which is ironically, Elden Ring is a horribly balanced game, by the way. That's a great example of a great game that is terribly balanced. I know it's PvE mostly, which kind of sways things, but that's a great example of Flat's point earlier. It's like, it's not even close to balance, but it's super popular. Anyway, but I was like really interested to see like what other people thought of things. And was it just me? Like, what do people think of this? Like, and like, I don't know, like maybe that is like the new meta. I don't know why that is. It honestly feels like the reality TV stuff from like the early 2000s. Like, why all of a sudden is this a thing now? Like, what is this just like a part of human psyche that we've never really dug into before? Is this just like the new meta for streaming or what? Because my best content, I don't know about you guys, but I reached 1,000 viewers reacting to the mid-season patch. And I'm like a no-name Andy, guys. That's a big deal for me, right? That was a big deal for me. And that was on of a patch react, right? Not me coaching or educating or a big crazy project, although that stuff sometimes is okay. But like it was off of patch react. That's where I got my biggest views.
Do you want another theory, like another philosophical theory?
Yeah.
Is that, and this one really is off the train of gaming. We're in a society that's much more isolated now, right? Like especially post-pandemic, like people spend a lot more time alone. And you know what you want to have when you're alone? Podcasts, people talking, just people talking, someone talking to you. Yeah. Someone in your ear who feels like casual, you're conversational, familiar.
Yeah,
literally,
even in Sam, like the whole 6v6 thing, man. Like you guys are like your YouTube comments are like a cult, man. Like, and you're not wrong, but like it's like people are like they buy in so hard to that community. It's almost bad, right? Because it gets super like they identify with that, and that becomes their OTP, and everything's 6v6. But like now, I know I'm pushing some buttons here, but
no, I'm just thinking
it's the same thing with like the Spylo community. Oh, mobility! Every character needs a flight cooldown or a dash or something. It's like, but like it's like a mini community, you know, like
Like human psychology in a way.
yeah,
where-
yeah. It's like it gives them something like, oh yeah, this guy I agree with. Like I want to hear what he has to say about this. You know, oh Spider-Man, he's gonna hate this patch. It's gonna be so funny. You know, it's like, you know, like I don't know. But yeah, I agree with Flats that a lot of it does feel a little bit like maybe it's the workshop, maybe it's the replay viewer thing sucks, dude. Like that is actually like honestly, frick the development or whatever
He put up his
freaking
ring
team for.
finger.
They did. Well, frick you, man. Like the fact that replay viewer it wasn't around still. It works. It works. By the way, I know it works. I've used it. They said it didn't work. I had an OPR account. It works totally fine. It's actually the biggest lie ever. And the complete dearth of content that we got because of that. Like there was so much educational, informative content we could have made from that, and they screwed it
And
up.
and you can get big watch time stuff on that too, just
You
reviewing
can.
matches.
It's
And like
super
YouTube
fun. It's
loves
super
high watch
creative.
time stuff. They
Super
love
creative.
it.
Just insert the word Kevster in any video title and you instantly 2 times views, you know what I'm saying? And there's so much opportunity to make like creative, informative content and that in the workshop. And Flats is right. It's like, you know, like the podcast stuff works really well, but I think we need variety. We need something new. And I am a little self-conscious. I'm looking back at like my last like 50 videos. I'm like, man, like 30, 35 of these are just discussion, you know, which I'm fine with. You know, everyone goes through seasons.
This is why you have
but
multiple channels. Let me tell you about this.
yeah,
Like-
but I'm like this, Flats. You know what I'm saying? If I diversify, I'm like, 200 views on my 3rd channel. All right, let's go, you know? But yeah, I agree. I think that there has to be like, whether it's workshop or new interesting things, like there's just not as much to do right now that people are interested in watching, I think. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's systemic, maybe it's not, but I don't know.
Yeah, actually,
I
I
mean-
think you could even take that a step further with like drama nowadays. Like I feel like even in
Oh,
Overwatch,
yeah.
we have way more nowadays than we
Oh,
ever
yeah.
had. Like it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
actually, and half of it's just made up nonsense 90% of the time. It's like, Huh?
I could say 2 names right now, and I could instantly get a 50,000 view video like that. Samito and Awkward are wrong, or I could instantly.
Oh God.
50,000
Oh,
views right there.
God.
Any of those tunes, and that's just 2. I could really stretch it. We could go all day long. And people just want to hear it. You know, people like controversy and conflict, and yeah.
Yep.
Again, just
I
the
kissed
fast
Samito on the
internet.
lips. Real.
Yeah.
Gone viral.
I mean, that would do well on many a website, not just YouTube. But
Oh, you talk about diversifying, Spylo. Come on, man. Come on, man. Jeez, Louise.
but again, I think another symptom of the internet, it's the overlap
Oh.
between between what's happening in gaming and Overwatch, but also just what's happening in the internet. You know, everyone knows negativity, polarization, like these are
Yeah.
real problems on the internet. So, anyways, fellas, we were supposed to be talking about some Overwatch. So, I mean, this
all
was very
fits.
relevant and very good.
It all
Very
fits. It
good.
all fits. It's all important.
No, I agree.
Everything's
I
connected.
agree. I agree. I never stop these discussions because I'm always enjoying them and I always think they're valuable. But to bring it back to Overwatch, is there anything else you guys wanted to mention about the current state of the game? And like we started talking about tank buffs and stuff, but is there anything kind of on your mind that you're like, by the way, I wanna talk about this because nobody's talking about this, or maybe everyone's talking about it. Flats.
I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of already talked about it a little bit. So I'm going to just say it one more time to just be fully clear. There are a lot of games that are coming for your spot. Marvel Rivals is a good example. I don't think Concord's an Overwatch competitor. I think that game has kind of had a lot of problems, and I already saw like the writing on the wall with that one. But there are a lot of games that are like, we need to find something new because the Battle Royale genre is in fact declining. It is in decline. And I think that we are currently moving towards an era of variety, not only gaming, but streaming. I don't know if you've heard any tips from some of the biggest streamers recently, like your Kai, your Jinxie, your anyone like the new age, like not like your older like Tims or XQCs, like the new age people. They actually say that they don't want to give their community too much of one thing because they become addicted to it and then you become a slave to it. Like that is like their words. And so
True.
basically
point.
what they try to do is to always do something new and something new, fun and exciting. And I think that also is going to have an effect on gamers and people who watch that content because they're not going to feel like they have to get good at something. Because between 2016 and 2020 to 2021, the new thing, the best thing to do was be the God gamer. That was what was actually, even take it back to 2014. Talk like PUBG Shroud. You know, you're talking like people like at the top, like your Ninja. Like Ninja was at the top. Like he was a really good entertainer and a really good player. You know, you had the arguments of like who's better, Tfue or Ninja, right? But like they were still the number one dogs in their game, right? Nobody gives a fuck about who's the best player about any game anymore. If you go look at Apex today,
horrible. Elden Ring, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You look at Apex right now. Apex, I think, is a great example for all of us to go look at, because Apex and Overwatch have actually been very aligned in a lot of ways over the years. And you look at that game, and their number one streamer, Hal, used to be a 20 to 25K Andy every stream. Now he streams for 8 hours and he's at like 8K. And it's like, whoa. That's kind of worrying that your number one streamer's views are cut in half, especially as like a deadlifting the category type streamer. And I've watched his stuff. Like, it's not like his content's changed. If anything, he's kind of mellowed out a little bit. Because he used to be a little bit more like, it was like, if you know Apex, the whole howling thing, there's a whole emote about it. It's fucking hilarious. And it's like, nobody gives a shit if you're insanely talented at games, unless it's like small things, and even in those niche communities. Like in Elden Ring, it's more of like the people who can play out level 1 on a dance pad, a Dance Dance Revolution, or like mind control their way through Elden Ring. Like those things hit hard in those communities, but they don't go outwards. They don't go beyond it. And so what I want to say to you, Overwatch, if you see this, and specifically, I hope somebody on the marketing team, they don't exist. I know that. But like somebody out there needs to realize that Overwatch is an 8-year-old game. And as much as every player sits on Twitter or Reddit and wants to go, I just want to play Doomfist and have a balanced game. No, you fucking don't. Because like you'll play it for a while and then you're going to get bored because there's nothing to do. We all did in Overwatch 1, but there was one thing that kept us all together in Overwatch 1.
Novelty.
The novelty and the hope of the future of there's Overwatch 2 on the horizon. And now Overwatch 1, I'm going to say this right now. We were a community that I would say no other community has ever come close to, where every streamer and every player, like all like the I would say like not like normal, like some random guy on the ladder. Although, to be fair, there was a lot of ladder players that were like friends with streamers and pro players and stuff like that. All of us were in the same boat together. There was not really any big rivalries or hatreds or like these two have drama or something. Everyone was in the shitter together. And ever since Overwatch 2 launched, that's not true anymore. And there's actually so much more drama, so much more bullshit, so much more like petty nonsense. And it's only gotten worse over time. And the whole point I'm trying to make here is that balancing your game and just releasing a hero every 4 months or 5 months, and like not doing the best job on the marketing cycle, and I'm gonna coin this phrase. I need to remember exactly. Spilo, you said like it's a battle pass simulator. What did you say again? I forget what it was. It's like endless battle pass. Endless battle pass cycle is not going to do it. Like and I'm worried that Microsoft has had this exact conversation already, and that Overwatch is too valuable of an IP to just throw away. But what if the day comes where it just becomes almost maintenance mode? And I'm scared that we're getting close to an almost maintenance mode, because what we're doing is just getting a hero every 4 months and then some skins. What happens if they slow it down and you only get a hero every year or every 6 months or every 8 months, and then you just keep farming out the battle passes? That probably would take less work. You wouldn't need as many people. You can lay some people off, and that way you have a smaller team and you only have to worry about pumping out the skins, make the seasons maybe a bit longer or make them a bit shorter, put more stuff in the shop. And at that point, you cut down on your costs while keeping your profits as high as you can, and just bleed that thing dry until it dies. And that is probably the scariest potential outcome that could happen, because if the game's not growing, why invest? And this is in something in the investing world as well. You're not going to invest in a company that you think is on the decline. You're going to invest in a company that you think is either sustaining or growing. If Overwatch is only on the decline, Microsoft's not going to put more interest into the game. And I want to point out something at that Xbox showcase that really alarmed me. Even something like Halo, which is a historic franchise which just keeps shitting the fucking bed, they still always put that damn title on all of their end screens, where it's like, pick up Xbox today, and it's like a bunch of games, and then boom, always there's like a Halo jump scare in the back corner, right? They never get rid of it. Overwatch is the front and center game when they picked up the Activision Blizzard deal above Call of Duty. And then when they did the showcase, it's literally nowhere to be seen. Considering Overwatch has kind of had a little bit of a downturn in the last year, plus that, I'm worried. Plus, we heard about all the layoffs too with the whole the lore team and whatnot, all that around like a couple months ago. There's already been another round of layoffs. And historically, Blizzard employees are not the most paid anymore, right? Like there was that whole thought. I don't know if you guys caught that article where they took away their bonuses. Did you guys catch the article where they took away their bonuses? Yeah, they took away their bonuses because it wasn't performing up to standard. If you're a average individual, you have to think about paying your bills, having a family, all this other shit. Why are you going to stay on this team in this game? And you feel like you love the game because we've met a lot of the devs. They're very passionate people. They love it. Yeah. But when do you have to decide between your future and a passion project that's not going anywhere, right?
Well, and my worry, analogy here. I'm sorry, you finished your thought.
My worry is that these people who love the game currently maybe aren't getting enough help or it's not going the direction they want. You keep having turnover. You keep having new people come in. The vision keeps changing. And, you know, the worry thing is like we talked about with like the balance of tanks. Like, what's the vision? What if the game itself's vision is starting to struggle because of turnover? And so once that happens and the point of no return feels like it's happening, and then the investor, Microsoft in this case, doesn't want to put any more money into it, and it goes into a more maintenance mode, it will last a long time. Overwatch's IP isn't going to die. Like, even if you said tomorrow we're going into maintenance mode, you're getting one hero a year, you'll still get your battle pass, you'll still get balance updates, just not as frequently. The game would survive for at least another few more years, but it would very slowly trickle down and be a very sad state of affairs. I hope that doesn't happen. That's my worry. If you want to avoid that from happening, you need something major to shake up the game. Not gameplay loop, but something groundbreaking that the actual overall gaming community is willing to come in and try. The only thing I see at the moment is 6v6. I'm not saying that's the answer, but something as groundbreaking as that, some kind of massive change that would get people's attention, or something in the future. I'm not saying Overwatch 3, but something as drastic on that level.
There has to be some sort of vision, you know. I think it starts with the leadership, right? Like there has to be some sort of an end goal, because a lot of people will point, like you said, Flats, to the current development team and the art development and all this, and like how passionate these guys are and like how talented they are. But as you said, like at some point, the analogy here is like, I've met like a lot of really, really passionate like public school teachers, right? But the school systems in America are just kind of like a joke, right? And the thing is that you could really be passionate about your job, but you literally have to hold on to your motivation to be there, because the system does not encourage you to do it, but it doesn't reward you for doing a better and better job. And I think that's kind of where we're at, not where we are at, but where we could be at with the development team, where we have these really, really talented individuals that only stick around because they really, really want to make it work. But like that eventually is gonna eventually that's gonna be more and more and more weight in your boots. You know, eventually you're gonna drop off. So like hopefully there is some sort of, like you said, vision of where the game is going. Like what do we want out of Overwatch? What does Overwatch need? What do we want Overwatch to be the best at? Like not to be like horny with it, but like what's the slogan for the Overwatch franchise? Like what does this game want to be? Not now, not 2 years from now, but 5 years, 10 years, the best competitive cinematic hero experience on the market. You know, the best the perfect marriage of MOBA and first person shooter. What is it? You know, and it's like, it feels like some of that energy has been lost. And while the details are still hitting it there, like, again, like what's the long-term goal here? Like what is the game? Where does the game want to be? You know, and I think that like some of the marketing stuff almost feels like it's a consequence of maybe being a vacuum in that regard. Like they don't know what they're trying to promote. They don't know what the product is supposed to be.
And his name is John Cena.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, I'll let you go first before I.
No, all you, man. I mean, these guys kind of summarized it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be too negative and too sad, but I have felt for a while that I just think they've accepted mediocrity. You know, like I don't think they're aiming for the top spot.
It's not the developers either. You know, it's
it's because again, as you said, the people we've talked to the devs and they are super. Like I cannot even believe the passion they have. Like whenever we've been there, I'm like, how do you guys care so much? Because I fucking don't. Like like this game is my livelihood too, but I don't give a shit. You know, like, but they're so passionate, they care, and like I can understand because they're like working. I said to one of the developers, I was like, you know what? Actually, the making of the heroes is probably the most fun part because once you release them, everybody goes into overdrive fucking hate mode and like, this is balance, unbalanced, blah blah blah. I can imagine there's a lot of passion there, but like the higher ups are just screwed them over and over. And I'm not saying that as an excuse because again, during this podcast, we've criticized them for plenty of decisions. But when it wasn't Bobby, there's a new set of people fucking them over now, like new set of layoffs. And like on top of that, even outside the layoffs, a lot of good people have left. We've known good developers, like really smart people who've just walked away, not fired, just walked away. They're just like, nah, I think I get a better offer somewhere else.
You
So
know, the
it's just
person.
You gotta ask
uh,
why. You got to know why, right?
Yep, person who made the
Flats?
new push map and Esperanza was in my chat the day it came out, and I was like, "This map's awesome." And they were like, "Oh, I made this map." I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, I was the lead designer for this map, and I also made Esperanza when I was on the team." I was like, "Does that
When
mean
you were on the
you're
team?
not there?" And they're not there anymore.
Esperanza
best push
is the
maps.
best-
And-
yeah,
Two
yeah,
best
It
push
is, it
maps.
is.
I love Esperanza so much.
And I think that like I think that the vision I get, maybe I'm wrong, but the vision I get from what Microsoft have done, like I think they came in with these big, billboard ideas of like, we're just gonna let Blizzard do what Blizzard do. We're gonna re-empower. Here we are at BlizzCon. Here's Phil Spencer, Overwatch first. And I think they looked at like whatever they looked at, the numbers, the internal thing, and like 2 months in, they were like, fuck this shit. Damage control, just like as you said, the classic corporate way. Flats explained as well. Like just milk it for what it's got. Like it ain't going anywhere. Squeeze it dry for a couple of years, guys, and we'll move on. Because that's what corporations do. They love doing that. They love just like take this, company, take this product, squeeze it for a few years, and then move on to the next thing. Make it another quick churn, squeeze it, move on to the next thing. Because that's what they've done. They've like cut the PV. They've cut any like external content. There's no animated shorts. All we get is corporate deals. All we get is corporate deals, and even the corporate deals aren't that hot because like we haven't even mentioned the Transformers collab. The one complaint I have with the fucking Transformers skins, the voice lines are just fucking Ryan with a robo filter. Like that's so
Yeah.
boring, dude. Like I would have loved if we actually got the voice acting from like an Optimus Prime voice actor, like anyone who's voiced Optimus Prime in like any of their animated
Or a
stuff,
unique
right?
voice line, right? Are there any super unique voice lines? I don't think so.
He doesn't even say Autobots
Roll
roll out. He doesn't even say that. But like,
Yeah.
it would be so cool because like other games do this again. I don't want to be too Dota pilled, but in Dota, you just change a certain skin. There's like one of the most popular skins, like Kid Invoker and Kid Pudge, who's like Roadhog. They just have a kid voice actor. Like all the voice lines are a kid, and the character is a kid, like the model of it. So it's like it's fun because it's like it's
Yeah.
totally different. It's like a totally different skin set. So even our corporate deals are fucking shallow. We put out a 2-minute awesome animated thing, but that's it. It's just to sell the skin. It's not even to tell a story. It's not like they were like, what'd be fun? Let's tell an Overwatch story, but with like a Transformers bent. No, it's
Yeah.
just a fucking look at Diva driving around in the fucking Porsche, guys.
Oh.
Buy the skin now.
This is why FromSoft just takes these guys, bends them over the knee, and spanks them because you could tell that they actually care about their product. They put so much effort and detail into it. It does what I don't know the profitability of FromSoft, but it gives me joy every time they release a DLC or new game and it does well because of like that's the difference. They actually freaking care about the product and it results in success, and like you said, it's like they buy the product, they milk it for what it's dry, and they leave the dried husk. And like there's like an infinite number of organizations that are doing that right now. Just buy what's successful off of the indie market and then just milk it for what it's worth off of the current fan base, alienate the fan base, and then kick the empty husk to the side of the curb and rinse and repeat. I don't know. It is exhausting. Really, and I don't know if that's where we're at with Overwatch just yet necessarily. I mean, it feels like in part maybe, but yeah, no, I hear you.
Anyways, I don't want to be too depressing. I don't want to get too down in the doomer.
Yeah.
We
have people
don't
fighting the good fight still within the team. Like those guys are crazy talented, but
they really, again, they just have my utmost respect. Whatever criticism I give the devs, and clearly we've given a fair share. The dedication, like again, and I know people are like shield, but like you just fucking meet these guys, you're like, damn man, the dedication, the passion, unbelievable. Like just really hats off to them, my full respect. But I just feel like they've been screwed. So anything else on this area that you guys want to bring up? Because I think otherwise we should start trying something, the optimistic closing thoughts.
I need to go to a meeting and eat, so let's run it.
Yes. All right, then let's you guys know we always try to end no matter how sad, even in the doomsday years, because Flats, you kind of made me think of the dead years, when we were coming on this podcast waiting for Overwatch 2, just like a year and a half or whatever. We're just like, but Overwatch 2 will come, guys. It was just like we were in such like a dead phase. Even then, it was ironic. I mean, that's just how nostalgia works. Now we're like, those were good times, even though we hated it.
No,
at
I
the
mean, like
time.
us together was good times.
Yeah,
that was
that's
fucking
true.
terrible.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But even back then, we would always try and end with something positive and optimistic. So that's what we will do again. What is your kind of hopes for the upcoming, whatever it is, 6 months, next season, in the near future of Overwatch? What are you hoping for that will maybe buoy us, give us that little optimism again? I think I know Sam's answer, so I'll go Sam first. Sam, what's going to make you happy about Overwatch?
Format change of some kind. Doesn't have to be 6v6 role queue. If they want to try open queue, I'm okay with that too. I guess, for me personally, I mean, I think the gameplay loop is just way more one-dimensional. I think in Overwatch 1, we had chess. I had some of my favorite heroes had their identity. Like I tried to play Hanzo today. Every time I hit a headshot, I just fucking scream at my camera. It just makes me so damn mad. I'm just like, dude, like, I'm just the worst hit scan. So I hope to see some of the spice come like way. And honestly, like, I appreciate Aaron taking the time to like really put his thoughts on paper. And I think that's going to go a really long way for people. I think the silence did way more damage than good. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what they do with Juno. I really hope they keep making more characters like Juno. And I think that's probably it for me. Pretty simplistic. I mean, we kind of hit the nail on the head this show, I think, guys. So, not much more for me to add on to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Spilo, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Juno good. Would love some clarity of vision with both the development team, the marketing team, the leadership team of exactly what they want Overwatch to be from both a gameplay standpoint and as like a culture, as a community. I think that we all have a pretty good guess about like what that ought to be, but sometimes it doesn't feel like we're on the same page. But yeah, just clarity of vision. Just clarity of vision. I would hate to see an IP like this that's actually pulled so many people into one spot in such a unique way go to waste, right? And I think that we have an active development, we have active new content, which is great. But I do feel like I would love some idea of like where we're supposed to be going, both from a balancing design standpoint, but also the game as a whole, right?
I like it. Flats, how about you?
There's one thing I've kind of kept in the pocket. So about a month ago, there was a tweet from Joanna, who is the new like president of Blizzard. They tweeted out on the 20th June. Can't wait to meet more of our Blizzard community at Gamescom. I'll be there along some of our fantastic developers, and we're also excited to bring Warcraft, Diablo, and play Overwatch to you in person. See you guys there. That's in August. My hope is that was a little after the Xbox stuff. I have not seen a lot of this person, but when they did take over, I did take a little peek at who they follow, and I was one of them. I was like, whoa, hey, how you doing? And I saw it was a lot of creators and a lot of players and a lot of people around. And it really made me go, this person is trying to be connected. And that's rare because like it might sound really simple, really stupid, but there's a lot of people out there in powerful positions who don't even want to see stuff on their timeline, which is fine. Like if you don't want to be criticized or see criticisms in your free time, I think that's absolutely your God-given right. But if you're someone like me and you're kind of all in on what you do, like with me, it's being a creator. Although don't like seeing sometimes shit on my feed that just is like, why is this there? Like, why is this just random bullshit? Like someone talking shit or going after something that they shouldn't. Like, that can be depressing, right? I would rather it be there than it not be there because at least it gives me a perspective of what's going on. My hope is that they had saw everyone's reaction because it wasn't just me. It was like community wide. There was nothing in Xbox and they saw it and said, we should probably have something at like the next big event. And my hope is that we'll see something Overwatch related, something to look forward to then. That's what I'm holding out on. That's what kind of made me kind of temper myself a little bit after the Xbox stuff. I was like, okay, that is very interesting that this popped up about like a week later after seeing like the big Xbox reaction. My hope is that the summer's not over and there's still a couple more events that they could hit on to make some stuff happen. And I hope that they do that. And I hope they surprise us. Because if they don't surprise us, I think the timer has already started ticking. But I'm optimistic that we will see some cool stuff. Hopefully. Something. And that they do give a shit and they do want to make it happen. So I hope that's my big hope, is that we're the summer's not over and there's still stuff to look to. Time's not up. Time's not up on potential bigger stuff. And if it happens, then I'll be happy. If it doesn't, I'll be sad. But at least it's not. There's still time. There's still waiting. There's still some hurry up and waiting time.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that is how it goes. I hope that it is optimistic, and I hope that it is an indicator that they're trying to reach out more. I always will keep a deep skepticism of any Corpa takeover president types. They're always, you never know with them. You never know what they're actually doing behind closed doors. But we'll see. Let's hope and see. Let's see if it represents any change. I do think that BlizzCon being canceled, and to go to my concluding thoughts, I do think BlizzCon being canceled, while terrible, should mean that there is still somewhere where they announce something. Like, and if it's Gamescom is that place, then so be it. But like, it's not like they're not doing anything. They're going to be doing something. And usually they'd have dropped in November, because I think the decision to not host BlizzCon is probably more like a admin decision, like, oh, we didn't make us enough money and, it's not going to be worth blah, blah, blah. I don't think it was like a, hey, Overwatch, do you have anything you want to show? Nothing? Okay, fine. We won't even make BlizzCon then, right? I think it wasn't that. So they will have some big thing. They're like, yo, we want to show you guys this. I don't know what that is, but I hope that shit is fun. I hope that whatever that is, whatever they're cooking, they're going to be cooking something. It might be small scale and we'll be a little bit underwhelmed. Or it might be like big scale and we'll be like, whoa. Or it might be like medium scale, but really well done. So I hope for one of those two. And I hope that will excite us, because I think that's what we need. I think for me personally, as a newly casual Overwatch player, I don't give a shit what they balance, bro. I don't give a shit, because the game still feels roughly the same to me. I just want something really cool and exciting. Sam, you had your hand up.
I just have a hot take. My hot take is I don't think we'll ever have an in-person BlizzCon again. I think there will be a Microsoft Global Gaming Convention that Blizzard will be a part of. Oh, and listen, I hope it ends up being like an E3, because I'm bummed I never got to go to E3 once in my life. I would love to see that happen again. Obviously, BlizzCon was really cool, but I don't. That's just a complete shot in the dark, by the way. But I've got a hunch.
I can see that.
Maybe, because I do think that like one of the big draws of BlizzCon was the appeal of Blizzard, which is no longer quite so strong. And like, I'm glad, on Samito's note, I'm glad I got to go to BlizzCon once. I'd never been to BlizzCon except for this.
Same.
So I was like, oh, thank God I got to go
Thank
once.
you guys, man. I still haven't gone.
Well, I hope for Spylo's sake we get one more.
Spylo, keep that ring finger down, buddy.
Nah.
Because I wanted to go at least one time, but like being there last time, it really just felt like a glorified World of Warcraft convention. Like it truly was just World of Warcraft.
That's why
and
I
friends.
didn't go.
A lot of World of Warcraft, not a lot of deodorant.
It was cool to see it, because I was like, wow, people still get this passionate about anything. Like the World of Warcraft community was so passionate. It was really cool to see. But we'll see what happens. So, anything else you guys want to say before I let you get going?
Good show today, guys. Thanks for coming on. I had fun.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys very much as always, and we'll what's the word I'm looking for? We'll rejoin. We'll reconvene when Aaron drops his. I'm expecting it to be a fucking absolute like
war. We'll pick a side.
There's gonna be a breakdown that's gonna take. This might be a 2-hour VOD. We'll see.
It will be a while.
My spidey senses is. I think Sam's gonna be disappointed, man.
I'm not expecting anything. My expectations have been on the floor for a long time.
All right.
But at least we'll get some clarity.
Yeah.
I hope they don't drop it tomorrow. That's my only hope.
It probably will be, man. We'll see.
Let me play Rivals, dude. Leave me alone.
I know. Fuck, man.
Maybe that's yes. That's what Aaron's planning. He's like, fuck these guys. I'm not letting them play Marvel Rivals.
I
Fuck it.
I know.
Read this patch, bitch. Read this devlog.
Yeah, and the worst part is I'm gonna get spammed to Kingdom Come to read it, so I know there's no.
Of
getting
course you
around
are. You are gonna get
Yeah.
you won't be able
Yeah.
to sleep for a week. Good luck.
it. Yeah, I don't see much anyway. We're all good. All right, boys.
Well, I will see you guys for that one. Until then, thank you so much to Samito Flats and Spilot for joining me. Please show these guys some love. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.